let me set the scene for you, because everyone knows I'm a wonderful storyteller in the same vein as Tolkien. Maybe not quite as good, but pretty close, right? That's what they say.
You stole his RR.
That's the best
Chandler
BRB.
RR Allen Barry.
That's like the best epic rap battles of history episode. Anyways, I digress. It's good because I get all the references. That's the problem with the other ones. So 2 nights ago, have you had the Carolina Reaper Cheetos? I didn't even know they had
I
those.
saw them. I haven't tried them yet.
Like I've had Nitro, I've had the hottest flavors they have on the market, and at this point, it's kind of whatever. And I know you're gonna call me a pussy because I was unable to finish the Carolina Reaper challenge at Buffalo Wild Wings, but those are like legit.
You ate three of them and then got the sauce in your eye and tapped out, which is fair.
It's a biological weapon. It's not because any other reason. It's simply put, it got in my eye. I physically could not continue.
Because you're the big sauce daddy.
That's why I'm the big sauce daddy, because I get sauce all over me. Spoiler alert, guys. That's where I get my name from. It's not.
You had fucking barbecue sauce on your elbow one time.
I don't even know how that happened because I was my wings weren't even barbecue flavored.
We had something one time and you just had it all up your arm, and I'm like, how?
See, now this part, I can actually go back in time, retrace my steps, and I can certifiably give an answer to what happened. So this is the circumstance I found myself in. So I'm gonna start at the beginning of the story. So I get some from Walmart. I got some.
As you should. As you should start at the beginning.
Yeah, I should. My habit is starting at the very end. I got some Carolina Reaper Cheetos.
Hmm.
And I'm like, these better be damn hot. That's because I've been craving that lately. I know you being of Hispanic descent, you also get these cravings from time to time. But me being a white guy, it hits seldomly. But every once in a while, I'll get a craving for some spice, some nice spice. And I'm like, maybe this will do the trick. Maybe this will hit the spot. So I get it, and it's a bunch of pushy shit. It's no. The nitro flavor was way hotter. I'm literally just putting like handfuls in my mouth. I was about to say spoonfuls, but it'd be weird to eat Cheetos with a spoon. So I'm just shoveling it into my mouth, and nothing, absolutely niche, zilch, nada, absolutely nothing. And out of the crumbs of the bag, because I dropped the bag after it was done, a breeze came through and it blew it onto the floor. A singular crumb, a granule, fell onto the carpet that I need to really vacuum really bad. But that's besides the point. It fell onto the carpet, and my dog Molly comes up and snatches it up,
Uh-oh.
and she ate it. And I'm thinking, well, it wasn't that hot for me. It wasn't that bad. But we're talking about dogs here. You change one little minute detail about their diet or what they're eating, it fucks up their whole intestines. Their whole system is ruined for
It's
like
ruined.
it's ruined for like the next few days. This didn't occur to me. But I was reminded of this fact at 3 o'clock in the morning that night because I decided, oh wow, I really need to take a whiz. So I got up from my mandatory Roblox session at 3 o'clock in the morning, I opened my door, and walked down into the dark and silent hallway. And I heard and I felt a squish underneath my foot.
Uh-oh. Were you barefoot?
Oh, I was barefoot. You better believe it because I don't sleep with socks on. I don't believe in clothes. That's a fabric prison. I feel constrained by clothing, so I don't wear clothes. I'll do the bare minimum for the folks in my house and wear underwear, but for the most part, it's guerrilla warfare out here. I'm all commando. So I walk out there and I hear a squish and it's cold and
You pay rent. It's your house.
it might as well be. I'd pay more rent than the people who live here.
I
Here's the thing. I have stepped in enough shit in my life to know what shit feels like. I don't know if you're at that point yet.
don't want to be at that
There's a
point, but I
particular
am.
consistency,
Yep.
a particular temperature,
Hmm.
especially if it's been sitting there cold like in the hallway all night long. So I walk out there and I step in it and I immediately just dread, not quite terror, not quite, but it's like almost like I want to scream but I don't because I'm reminded that I'm a man. We don't scream. We don't
No.
we don't show emotions. That's what Lord of the Rings is for. So I turned on the light and it was a massacre. It was a massacre, man. The carpet was destroyed. I think it was quite literally carpet bombed. There was shit in the bathroom. She couldn't do the common courtesy of using the toilet in the bathroom, but she pooped in the bathroom. I'll give her credit. And it trailed out into the hallway, into the top of the stairs. Thank God it wasn't like those chocolate fountains they have at Golden Corral that were just going down the steps of the stairs.
Oh,
Just straight up carpet bombed. I didn't reprimand her. Because I knew it was my fault. This is on me. I kicked my own self in the ass because I let her get that crumb of the Carolina Reaper Cheeto. It was so minuscule, but that was enough to just destroy her entire intestinal tract. Like her whole system was ruined, as runt as you like to say. It made a mess all over my carpet. And I would classify this as a catastrophic failure, which reminds me of a far worse catastrophic failure that's been in the news lately. Are you familiar with the Titan submersible and what's been going on with that?
nope.
Thank God, because I
I'm
can educate you.
I'm so disconnected from the world, man.
You got too much going on. And we'll get into more of what's going on because I also was not aware of any of the stuff in the news. Like, I just learned, well, I think it happened today, but the whole Wagner mercenary group is finally turning on Russia
That was news to me. You told me today too.
because I think it happened today. I think this is like really like real time news. But as far as the Titan submersible, that was gone since last week. So let me, again, set the scene.
I just saw memes on iFunny and I was lost.
Oh, my exposure to it was the day before the Navy found anything or the Coast Guard found anything was I was on, get this, I know I say this every episode, get this, guys. I'm a Redditor. I spend time on Reddit, so this is where I get a majority of my news. I was on, for whatever reason, I've subscribed to r/Titanic. Like, there's no news, there's nothing new, right? Like, so what am I on there for?
We
Go
found
figure.
it. Why do we need a Red? We found it before
Reddit
Reddit
existed.
Yeah.
So this is about the 80s. We knew exactly where they were. There's a whole movie about it. Go watch it. James Cameron was one of the first people. He hand built his own submersible, and he went down there. He went down. That was he down there to pick up. Oh, that's South Park. That's South Park, babe. Remember he goes down there to pick up the bar because he's raising the bar.
Yeah.
Like I can't think about James Cameron without thinking of South Park now. But when he's one of the first people to go down there and physically behold the Titanic in all her glory so many years later. Of course, you got the the 50s movie, and then you got before that the Nazi movie, and I think there was a silent film made before that. Like, we've always had Titanic films. It's always been in the pop culture, and for that reason, I find it incredibly overrated. Because you know how many maritime disasters there are? You know how many crazy stories there are?
Like the Titanic too.
They better reconsider after this, and I'll tell you why. I'm going to pull a crazy Ralph on you and say, it's got a death curse. I think it does have a death curse. So here's what happened. So, five incredibly rich people. I'm not going to use derogatory terms. I will say rich. I think it's a friendly
Greedy
term.
bastards.
Okay, yeah.
To
Greedy,
quote Lemmy.
greedy, I'll add on to Lemmy and say greedy billionaire bastards. I think really only one of them or two of them might have been, and we'll get into that. Like, I don't want to blame somebody for this, but you kind of have to when there's a catastrophic failure. Like, I can blame myself for the hot Cheeto happening.
Right.
So this is what happened. The Titan submersible is a commercial, recreational type submersible, almost like how 20 years ago they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna send Lady Gaga to the moon. There's gonna be this whole commercial thing for billionaires.
No.
They still haven't done it, but they kept talking about, oh yeah, we're gonna send like celebrities, like William Shatner did it.
Well, God, that pissed me off so fucking much. Hold on, give me a second, dude. When he got off that ship, when he made it back home, and he's just crying. He's just crying, having a moment. He was in Star Trek for like that's what people know him for. And he's having this moment of like, holy shit, I'm part of a small group of humans that have been in space. And then Bezos motherfucker comes in and is like, yeah, whatever. They just
Just
shit
had to.
on his parade.
He just had to one up him. Now to make this even worse, it's funny we bring up Shatner because the group he was with, either one or two of the people that were on the same expedition that he was on were in the Titan submersible.
Wow.
This is called adventure tourism or danger tourism. We have this stuff all over the place. People like to jump out of planes. People want to fly to the moon. People want to experience adrenaline like never before. And in this day and age, it's so much easier if you have the money to do pretty much anything you want to do. It's like the Roman drunken orgies they used to have, but now you can do it in space. Like that type of stuff.
That'd be wild.
How would that work? You know what? Let's not talk about the specifics of that. Let's not talk about the logistics of having orgies in space. Rewind time, as Will likes to say. So here we go.
Oh, that's hot.
You know what? It would be. So look, the Titan submersible goes down last week to go observe the Titanic. Now, the guy who made it, super rich billionaire, touted himself as some revolutionary in the field because he likes to cut costs and cut corners.
That always goes well.
Get this. Now, a lot of people called it woke engineering, and I'm not a fan of that term, but I see where they're coming from because I'm quoting younger people than myself here, right?
Right.
Like, I'm young, you're young, but I have to use this terminology because this is what people are saying. Is they call it woke engineering because, I quote, he hired a bunch of young kids because he didn't want boomers. So he got like a bunch of college graduate engineer students to come on board and work on his Titan submersible, this commercial craft. If you have the money for it, you can take down and go look at, I don't know, fucking angular fish in the Titanic or
I
whatever.
mean, that would be pretty cool, but
That
I'm
would be
not
cool.
trusting a goddamn ship made by people our age.
No, he didn't want people. And here's my theory, and I think this is most people's conclusion on it, is he didn't want like 50 to 60-year-old like naval experts, people who have literally worked on submarines, people who are certified engineers for the better part of their life. This is what they do. Like real voices in the field. He didn't want them because they would tell him no. And I don't get it.
I get it. I get the idea of wanting to do something even though if you know that it's probably not going to work out because you'll have people smarter than you who know what they're doing telling you not to do it. There's always that urge to be like, I'm going to do it anyway.
I admire it. Like, there's a part of me that kind of admires it.
Punk rock about it.
It's
Yeah.
very punk rock.
Except for the fact that it's funded by billionaires.
Well, here's what I don't understand. This is the part I don't get is rich people are the most frugal. They don't spend, and that's why they're rich. That's why they have money. It's why I've somehow managed to obtain what little bit of money I have, and I could spend it in a day if I wanted to. It's really not that much, but for me, it's like I had years and years and years of accrued money and never spending it, and I just now got to this milestone that I'm already at. It took me that long to get just there.
Right.
So with rich people, you have billions of dollars. You could spend $100 million a day, and it wouldn't make a dent in your wallet.
No.
So I don't understand why they're still cutting corners when you have all resources known to man at your disposal. Just make it good.
There's greedy bastards.
So he makes this tomb, this sarcophagus of the ocean, the sarcophagus of the sea. He makes it out of carbon fiber and titanium. And I don't know what it is about the word Titan being in something's name, but it spells disaster. Don't name anything Titan. Especially a moon. Don't go there. Don't go there. We don't know what's there. Don't go there. It's probably like some Nautica-looking monsters that are there.
Oh, my planet.
Oh, yeah. So the Titan goes down, and it's got 5 people. Of these 2 people, of the 5 people, 2 of them are directly responsible for this craft. One of them is the CEO. One of them is I think, the lead architect. But they're like the 2 people involved in the actual business side of things. And I admire them for going down in the ship that they did not test beforehand. So they go down, and another 2 people is a family. So you got a father and his son. The son was not supposed to go, but because it was Father's Day, he was talked into going. He was convinced to do so. So you got a father and a son, 2 other rich people, or as you like to say, greedy bastards. and then you get two more greedy bastards who are actual CEOs, or people in the corporate side of things, and they're going down, and they all have like really crazy adventurer sounding name, like Indiana Jones type names. There's like a guy named Hamish. This is, I think they're part of the Explorers group too. Not the one from South Park that Chef was a part of. We don't talk about those guys, but they're all part of this like adventurer group, and they go down, all five of them, and about an hour and 45 minutes into the expedition, they're about 9,500 feet underwater, which I don't know if you're aware is quite a distance when you're underwater. If we're talking lengthwise on land, 900, or excuse me, 9,500 feet is nothing. Quite literally a drop in the bucket. It's nothing. You could walk that distance pretty quick. We would do it in school. We do track for PE or for JRTC, and it's like, yeah, that's nothing. You can do that in no time. However, when you're talking down, 9,500 feet is a lot, especially underwater, especially with pressure. That's like having the Empire State Building sitting on top of you, made of lead. That's how much weight that is. And that's all on this little submersible that this room is bigger than. And to make matters worse, guess what? They're using a was it a PS4 controller? I think it was a PS4 controller, or they're on PS5 now. I'm an
Yeah,
Xbox boy. I suck off Bill. So I think it was a PS4 or PS.
bastard.
Another one, yeah. But he gave me the Xbox, so I'll let him pass. The PS4, the PS5 controller, and they had a monitor screwed, like screwed into the side of this carbon fiber hull. Screwed into it. You're not. That's not mandatory. That's not regulation.
No.
And they screwed it in there with this monitor so they can see stuff, and they're controlling the entire submersible with, get this, a wireless controller. So if the batteries died, you better have a pair very handy,
Right.
readily available, because that thing's gonna nosedive immediately. So they're using a game controller and this very shaddily built uh, piece of, I'm gonna call it a medieval torture device is what it looks like, and they're going down some iron lung type shit. Actually, the iron lung was bigger,
Yeah.
like dimension wise. So they go down there. They're at 9,500 feet. In about an hour and 45 minutes, they lose communication with the ship that's above them.
I'm sorry. It's not funny, but it's pretty funny.
I'll tell you some funnier bits. It's not funny, it's a tragedy, but we
Yeah.
gotta kind of find something to be like, you know what? Maybe we could take something away from this. Because I don't want there to be a Hindenburg effect. Like when the Titanic sank, did people stop recreationally getting on cruise ships? No. Was there better safety precautions? Better safety measures put forward so stuff like this didn't happen as frequently? Yes. So you could say something positive came out of a tragedy. When the Hindenburg exploded, now all of a sudden, oh, we can't fly around in Zeppelins. I think I've seen like two blimps in my whole life. It's a damn travesty is what that is. But like when these tragedies happen, it's like learn from it, have better precautions going forward so it doesn't happen in this styling again. So I don't want people to come out of this thinking that recreational subuse is bad and that this is dangerous. I think people should do it.
It is dangerous.
I mean, it is, but we take a calculated risk every time we walk out the door. I mean, Donnie Darko style, a damn jet engine could fall through your roof while you're sleeping. Crazy shit can happen at any moment in your life. Don't let that scare you from doing things you want to do.
Yeah.
But don't go down and see the Titanic because it's cursed. Like, straight up, it's haunted. The whole thing's cursed.
If ghosts exist, they would be there.
So here's what happened. Yeah, because their spirits can't leave because they're at the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah, get fucked.
Wait, you want to hear the craziest thing?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That was pretty perfect time to go.
So about a week later, they've been searching, and there was one guy. I don't even know who he was, but he was on the news, like CNN or Fox. Because I was like, I turned it on there after scrolling through Reddit. I'm like, what the hell's going on? Turn it on there. I mean, one of the first faces I see is some expert, and they're like, "So, what do you think are the odds of finding these people? What's the likelihood?" He's like, "You're not." He's like, "No." Like, there's other people who are like either friends or competitors. I think it's funny they had competitors in the submersible market on there because they were just talking shit about them the whole time. Like, of course, there'd be bias.
They're gonna take this opportunity.
Yeah, this is good for business. Don't go to Ocean Gate submersibles. Come to us. But uh, yeah, this guy was on there. He's just like, no, it's not. It's impossible. You're not. James Cameron was on there and was talking about the hubris of man and how no one learned anything from Titanic, despite the fact he's got one of the biggest egos I've ever seen.
Motherfucker, just dude, this guy, Lord of the Rings.
Oh no
Fuck.
no no, that's Peter Jackson.
All right, yeah.
I mean,
James Cameron did Avatar,
yeah,
and it's
also overrated, just like the Titanic.
like
It's good.
when Way of the Water, whatever it was called, was announced. I'm like, I couldn't give less of a fuck.
They missed their mark. It just took too long. Like, if it came out like 3 or 4, maybe even 5 years later, I think the fan base would have still been there. But it's well over a decade later. Like reboots have happened. Like they've done that Perry Mason reboot. I've never watched Perry Mason, but
I don't even know what that is.
I mean, you have consistent stuff like Doctor Who, which never has a break. It's constantly a new series. But if you have like a lull in something for a decade, most people don't care anymore.
Yeah.
Uh, you have to rebuild that fan base. But in James Cameron's case, he was just on there pretty much bashing these guys. Like, why would you? Who do you think you are? You think you're me? You think you just get to build submersibles and go see the Titanic like me? No. So he's just bashing them, saying it's the same hubris that led the Titanic to her doom. Uh, but so here's what happened on Thursday. Well, excuse me. Before that, they on the day of and the day after, the Navy reported, and because I've been on my SCP kick as of late, the Navy reported anomalous pounding in the ocean, roughly in the same area where the sub vanished from all radar. And my first thought is fucking sea monsters. That was my first
If
thought, sea
only,
monsters.
if only, man.
The bloop did it, or Cthulhu. Something did
I
it,
hope it wasn't Cthulhu. I swear to God.
because that means
I,
he's awake.
yeah, I would rather have Earth-like monsters.
Like mosasaurs or something.
Yeah, like actual like serpents, leviathans, and stuff, rather than a cosmic deity.
An elder god.
Yeah,
One of the old ones.
yeah. Just our luck. That's the timeline we live in.
Luckily, we know the geographic coordinates of where the city of Raleigh, not Raleigh, North Carolina, but like the city that the Cthulhu's in, the sunken
Not
city.
the one where the hurricanes play.
Yeah, yeah, that one. Not that one. That's hopefully it'll be a different sunken city soon enough. But
Yeah, I
with
mean,
with the whole Cthulhu thing, we know where he is, so I can certifiably tell you, because apparently that's my word for the day. Certifiably tell you definitively that no, Cthulhu didn't do it. I can tell you why, because the Navy can tell you why, or maybe it's just the SCP Foundation trying to hide the truth. But this anomalous banging they heard, everyone thought that was them banging on the hull of the ship, trying to get out because they had like 92 or 96 hours of reserve oxygen. That's that the thought was that they were stuck down there. And I had this idea before. Like I wanted to write a short story about a submersible that went down, lost power, and was stuck on the bottom of the ocean.
The Simpsons did it first.
I know that's why I haven't done it because I found this out. So that was like an idea I had, but looking at this, that they probably got the best possible outcome because on Thursday, the Coast Guard or the Navy or whatever, some military body, whatever,
Somebody.
somebody found them. Apparently, it imploded the day they lost communication, and it probably imploded the second they lost communication, meaning that nobody was stuck there in the dark, dying of hypothermia or starvation by themselves in the dark at the bottom of the ocean because they imploded immediately. Who would have thunk it with such a shabbily built contraption? Just thrust untested into the ocean. And then even then, like, how do they know it was 96 hours of reserve oxygen? Did they test that? You're powering it with a wireless controller. No shit, it blew up. So they imploded, and at that depths, there's nothing left. But this is the funny part. This is the only thing where I can laugh, and I laughed at this when I first saw it. There was there was pictures of the wreckage, what little there is left. At the bottom of the ocean, get this, 1,600 feet away from the Titanic is the submersible, the Titan. And at the very bottom of the ocean, among all the few debris that's left, is a completely intact PlayStation controller. And I can see Sony jumping on this, being like, see? Think about how great this is for marketing. Think about that. The whole ship imploded because of the depths. And one of the only things that's left intact is a PS controller.
I want to see them try to get it to work. Like, dump
So,
that shit in some salt, or some rice, let it dry out a
this,
little bit.
this
Maybe it'll
no.
turn on.
This isn't like dropping your phone in the toilet for 5 seconds and then putting it in the microwave with rice. Don't put your phone in the microwave. Maybe that's why mine never works. Okay, lesson learned. One catastrophe after another. Let's
We're
stick to
learning
one.
today. We're learning a lot today.
Another lesson to learn. What kind of gives me the goosies? What's kind of spooky about all this? Because I love stories. Not, I mean, I don't love the tragedy of it all. I think there is stuff to learn from it. Don't let your hubris get in the way of testing things and getting experts who can tell you better. People who can curb your
I'll
own
do it
hubris.
myself.
No, no, not when other people's lives are at stake. Now a father and his son are dead, and other people are dead. Also, the guy responsible for it. So I mean,
I mean,
you
it
take
works out.
you take your victories when you can.
He- oh my god.
You take your W's when you can. Here's what freaks me out about this. Also what freaks me out is the guy cutting the grass outside. Why? Who cuts the grass at 2:08 p.m.? Okay, never mind. That makes sense.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is an early episode.
I know it's always the next day.
You're right. We got
Okay,
stuff planned after this too.
he's cutting the grass. He's
Over there.
over there. Yeah, he's leaving. Okay, okay. I can think now. So so this is what happens. Right? We have the Titanic sinking in 1912.
Mhm.
In the modern day, right next to it, 1,600 feet away, which is amazingly close, is the Titan submersible. You want me to bring it full circle for you? What makes this really crazy?
What?
In the late 1800s, a book came out called The Sinking of the Titan. And it's about a ship called the Titan, go figure, taking the exact charted course that the Titanic took, roughly around the same time period, at the same time of night, on the same day, on the same charted course, hitting an iceberg and sinking. And
Wow.
in 19, that's already crazy. It's one of those like similarities between JFK and the Lincoln assassinations. Like they're incredibly similar. And yeah, you could chalk it down to coincidence, but this is already a major coincidence that the Titanic shares so many resemblances with the Titan of the book. And then you have a submersible called the Titan that go down and look at the Titanic made of titanium and then implodes 1,600 feet away. Now forever immortalized as a part of the Titanic story, but it's full circle. It began with the Titan and it ends with the Titan in the same exact location. Is it that part of the ocean that's cursed? Is it the name that's cursed? Is it the ocean itself that's cursed?
I just think it's really funny whenever like something like even with other times in history when ships sink. That's it. We typically really don't go get it
No.
like we would if like a car breaks down on the road. Somebody goes and gets it. I just think it's really funny that if like millions years past humanity and some other life form comes, and the ocean is just empty and there's just a bunch of like ghost ships down there different like and you can see the different eras like you can see a submergible and then you see a fucking kayak made by the Pacific Islanders, you know.
Viking ships, Viking long ships,
Yeah,
right next
and
to
pirate
battleships.
ships, you know.
Yeah.
I always find that very interesting that we just never go and get them. Like I mean I understand that it's a lot of money and a lot of shipments and this and that, and it's probably more in from the perspective of preserving history to leave it there because we can observe it with more technology and stuff rather than move it. But so I don't know. Part of me, and I don't know anything about preservation or anything, but I think
Clearly of ourselves.
yeah, if you take it out of salt water, I think it's going to do a little bit better than how it's doing.
You want to know why you're wrong?
Why?
Okay, I don't actually have scientific terms to back up what I'm about to say,
Right?
but like there's this movie in the 80s. It came, of course, I'm going to use a movie as a reference point. There was a movie in the
Movies,
80s
markets, and music.
in which they raised the Titanic. I think that was the name of the movie, literally called Raising the Titanic. In which this is before they even found it. They didn't even know where it was. The whole movie was just kind of like, what if we found the Titanic and we could resurface it? And it's really unrealistic because it would just fall apart. Like it's held together by the pressure and by the environment that it's in. If you were to remove it, it would. It's almost like a blobfish. Like a blobfish is a completely normal looking creature. I mean, not really. It's it's an abyssal creature, and they all look fucking terrifying, like they're aliens from another planet. So I say it's normal. I mean, it's normal for what it's supposed to look like.
Right.
But when you remove it from that environment, because of all the pressure that holds it together, when you remove it from that environment, it turns into a blob. It melts, essentially.
Thanks for ruining that really good like dream of like other life coming to an empty ocean, seeing all those shit. Because there's gonna be nothing like because they all fall apart because there's no pressure.
Well, some of them will. Some of them are intact. It's not just removing them that causes the issue. Raising them will destroy them. Because like actually moving the process of moving them would also destroy them. They would just disintegrate. But if you just leave them be, a majority of them would probably stay put. They'd be in really bad shape. But if you didn't touch them, they wouldn't fall apart.
Dude, this might be a stupid question, but is the pressure occurring because of how deep with water or just how deep
With water.
with water?
With
So
water.
so
Does
if
does grav does gravity get heavier in the deeper the canyon you're in?
it's, for some people it feels like it and they're falling, but
But the
but like so it'd be like going into like the bottom of the Grand Canyon if you like if there's like a trail that leads into the canyon. So and looking up, that's what I imagine like an empty ocean would be like. So there wouldn't be any pressure; it'd just be a depth.
it's the depth thing. Having the physical presence of water, miles and miles of it on, because it's liquid, but altogether it's kind of a solid. I mean, it's not like you can traverse it like as a liquid, but if you fall on it from a great height, suddenly it feels like a solid, and then it's a liquid when you sink and die.
Right.
But when you first hit it, it's like hitting concrete. It's still an amalgamation of particles and molecules stuck together. And so when you hit it from a great distance, it feels like a solid because it's still a mass of something, regardless of how you can traverse through it as a liquid.
Okay, so then my ghost ships found by aliens idea still
Oh
stands.
yeah, like there's some ships. It doesn't matter how old they are. They could be like 400, 500, 1,000 years old. They'll stay there at this point.
The aliens find the ark.
Are you saying we haven't found it already?
It's not in what is it?
Ohio?
No, not Ohio.
It's not
Oklahoma.
Oklahoma?
Yeah, they have like the museum.
Oh, that's Kentucky.
Kentucky.
Because of
Yeah,
course the Kentuckians do. I use
Kentuckians.
Kentuckians. Yeah, that's the official nomenclature.
Really?
That's the official nomenclature is Kentuckians.
Ah, that's just
I know Georgians sounds so much better than Kentuckians. Or
being called a peach is better.
what are they called? They're called creationists up there. That's what you call Kentuckians. I
Creationist.
I would I used to consider myself one, and I still dabble in the thought of it, like trying to work it out, like because I like trying to retroactively make things work in my head, especially when it comes to like religious stuff, using religion to back up science. is how I like to think. Versus
That's a rocky road.
it is, but I like doing it more than the inverse because that's no fun. But that goes
Because
that's
that's
true.
easy.
It's too
it's,
easy, and
it's easy to just disprove religion with science, but that's the point. It's not supposed to be fun.
I like the idea that, especially, I don't want to go on a tangent, but especially with religion, it's like I think if there is a creator, then he create. It's like putting inputs and outputs into a computer. It's just like a programmer. He made the algorithm and he
Are
made.
we in a simulation? Is that what you're saying?
I mean, yeah. If you
I
think
mean,
someone made the world we live in, then it's a simulation of what they want the world to be. We're the virus that corrupts the code, and that's why we're not allowed to get into heaven because we would corrupt the code. That's how I see it. Anyways, tangent aside, that's why hell's a quarantine zone. Anyways,
there's so many layers to what you just said.
anyways, what the fuck was I talking? Oh yeah, creationism, Kentucky. Yeah, like with that, it's fun to me. Like the idea that people lived alongside dinosaurs, and that's what Leviathan and Behemoth are from the Bible. That's fun. There's a lot of stuff I
Dinosaurs
disagree with.
attack.
Yes,
Dinosaurs attack, man.
I still have to watch it.
Yeah, read about it. I'll find you the video that I
Okay.
watched where it was like a really good in-depth discussion
Oh,
of it.
was it Ryan Hollinger or was it somebody else?
No, it wasn't a movie.
Oh, it was a book.
It was never a movie.
It's a book. Okay.
The reason why we didn't get the movie is because of Jurassic Park.
Okay, so this is what's gonna happen. We'll make the movie when we're big shot Hollywood directors. I say Hollywood like
Okay, so what's
who
gonna
gives a
happen
shit
is
about
we're gonna
Hollywood?
make enough money to get Tim Burton to direct it.
Do we need Tim Burton to do it?
Because that was the initial plan. He was gonna do Dinosaurs Attack, but because Jurassic Park, the company decided to move forward with
A dinosaur Tim Burton movie? What would that even look like?
Mars Attacks with dinosaurs.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
I want that now. Yeah.
yeah.
Now that we're talking about it again,
We
um,
gotta we gotta raise some money to get Tim Burton to do.
we have to pull a James Cameron and raise the bar
Yeah,
so we can get him to make this dinosaur movie. But retroactively going back and making stuff work is what the guy of Ocean Gate Submersible should have done is fact checked and hired people who know better than him to get the project done and not so hastily try to get people down there to look at the Titanic to make even more money.
yeah.
Like you need it.
That's also a note. And it works because it's a music podcast. I will say anybody who's starting to do music, the best thing you can do is find people that do music already and surround yourself with. I can tell you right now, you just being around in the environment and watching the process will make you a better musician than sitting at home trying to figure it out yourself with YouTube videos.
Oh, absolutely. I don't even watch YouTube videos anymore about it. I think this is true for anything. Just doing something, the process of doing it and surrounding yourself with like-minded people who can reinforce the stuff that you're learning and teach you stuff that you haven't learned already, you're going to be in way better shape than not. It's like, hey, I want to be a mountaineer. Okay, go hiking, then climb a mountain. Go to rock quarries. Go to environments where there's people who are knowledgeable on the craft, people who do it on a regular basis. Go into communities with other mountaineers. Don't immediately like, I'm gonna go climb Mount Everest.
You're not gonna make it. Dude,
They mark the trails with dead bodies. That's how many people died. That the dead there are landmarks.
that's also another thing. Like it's so high up that we can't recover the bodies. Just like the ships are so deep, we can't recover them.
Right. The helicopters physically can't go that high to retrieve the bodies because the wind and just the pressure.
Dude, dude, it would be like if they sent an expedition like every week to go recover some bodies. A good day is if we got the whole party back, not if we recovered a body.
You're doing good if the party survives at all.
Hmm.
Like that incident in the '90s that they made the movie Everest based off of,
Yeah,
which is like, what if a storm just happened to come by while you're on the mountain? You're not just gonna get off. This isn't Stone Mountain.
no.
You can't hike it in 30 minutes. I would say the conditions are a bit a bit more
That's
dangerous.
wild. Like man, like going back to what you said about man's hubris, man. When the aliens come, like in millions of years, they see all these broken, different types of ships. Like these, they never got it down. They never got the perfect craft down because they would be able to see like literally a progression in technology that still gets destroyed, still breaks down, still just doesn't isn't perfect. And then they also see on top of the mountain, we as humans just can't live or like for like not even live, but just pass through for a couple hours or a couple days in this kind of environment and that height and pressure. We're just that weak of a species.
It's like looking at a chart of evolution, like man's evolution, seeing it go from uh, like Viking longships and going through the periods, seeing like schooners and galleons and seeing the wooden ships advance. And I think what the aliens would note, what would strike them as peculiar, is as technology advanced, the weaponry on the ships advanced, and they're thinking, why would you spend time and resources on building cannons or artillery or all these capabilities for destruction and nuclear submarines?
Like that,
Why
like
would you?
no.
Why would you waste your time and energy on weapons when you could have been making the ship stronger and
I,
more reliable outside its capacity for destruction?
I'm so excited for Oppenheimer. Like I kid you not, I saw another
Yes,
trailer for it. My boy Cillian Murphy, I fucking love that
we're
guy.
going to see the theaters
Yes. Oh, there's gonna be a full review, and I'm gonna just be fangirling.
the whole time. And the great part is because it's a historical movie, I think we'll both have something to add outside the movie was good.
Right. But yeah, them just seeing the progression of time and that the things that they will note is that we aren't as different as we perceived each other to be because we're all building ships. We're all building a particular type of ship. We have ships for this, we have ships for that. But they will also see, yeah, the destruction part, but also we can never get it right. And I think that I don't know, I'm just macabre like that. I like to think of scenarios where it's you have pity for humanity.
It's seldom, every once in a while, on a grand scale, using the alien template of a third party looking in. Yeah, you can have sympathy. As a human being who has to deal with other humans, no. I can empathize with people, but very rarely do I sympathize when it's their own damn fault for their own misfortune.
Get literally sinking in front of the Titanic.
1,600 feet away. Well, here's how I feel about that. If you love something, regardless if it's your own damn fault if you die doing it, you die doing it. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
You die doing what you love. If you're gonna hike a mountain, fall off that damn mountain.
If you're gonna die, die with your boots on the
Yes.
ground. I love that Iron Maiden lyric, man. It's so good.
All Iron Maiden lyrics are good, and they all pertain. Most of them pertain to war.
I'm a
This,
big fan of Phantom of the Opera. That was the first metal lick I ever learned on bass. Was Phantom of the Opera.
I'm a basic bitch. I like When the Wind Blows, which is a really long piece about Revelations and the end of the world and Armageddon. Of course,
It
the
would have to be
Troopers.
long.
Yeah, it's
That's not like you could break it up like movies. I feel like I would rather sit there and record another fucking dope smoker that's like an hour and 5 minute track than try to break it up into different songs because I really think, in a way, it does. But uh, and this is just me, just talking. All right, so it's kind of how I feel about the Pink Floyd album we reviewed.
the wall.
Yeah, the wall would flow. I think like it flows well, but if it was just a dope smoker, where it was like just continuous tracking, like where it's just one continuous track. Like I don't know. If, I'm hoping, and I'm sure we might eventually inspire somebody. But for those who don't know how to track music, GarageBand is probably the most easy and first good software to use.
Fuck Audacity.
Yeah, fuck Audacity. You can break it up into different. So a track would be a layer, right? And you can layer them. You can have one track just be guitar. You can have one track just be bass. But I would feel like one, and you can save them into being just one song. I feel like if it was just laid out as one continuous song rather than individual tracks, I feel like it would feel better.
Speaking of feeling better and transitioning, other than quoting Godzilla and saying the arrogance of man is believing that nature's in our control and the other way around, let's move on to a project we've been working on. See, I can do transitions. Thank you.
Southern Casket.
Which we've already advertised at this point.
Yeah.
Uh, but we're officially announcing it here live on the podcast. I mean, not live for y'all, but I think it's the first time we are saying it out loud. Yeah, we have a new band. Southern Casket is a southern gothic band with light punk and doom influence. And would you say black metal as well?
We'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see. I definitely am interested with what we're trying to record today. We might have a little bit of a rockabilly flair because that's you. That's like that. That's like every time I see you play guitar, that's what you do. Is rockabilly, psychobilly, that kind of style playing. But and I think it really comes from you being a banjo player, like how you strum.
Yeah. Also, my singing, which, by the way, guys, I apologize.
That first track he wasn't happy with, so he redid the vocals, but that's not the complete image we have for that song. I just feel like that's a good starting place, and for moving forward, I think we're gonna be doing two more demo tracks, then recording two covers, and then packaging it together in one thing so that you can just go to that, or you can still view the individual tracks. But then after that, we are gonna just re- legitly re-record those three songs, add three more originals, and release it as an EP or album.
Mm-hmm.
And
Just gotta clean it up. That's
yeah,
all we gotta do. Is the only thing we gotta do for the album is just re-record and clean up the songs we already did. Here's
yeah,
the craziest part about it. So the night we came up with Southern Cascade was kind of a wild night. A lot of it is just very fleeting for one reason or another. But we just were riffing on
that
each
was a
other.
really good
We're-
night.
a few mind-altering substances may have been involved in the making of Southern Casket. But we came up with Southern Casket. I came up with Casket. Slug here came up with the southern part, and I think it's cool that we both just combine two like juxtapose things, put them together to make one entity. Because like I will bring a different flair than you will bring, but it's even represented in the title of the band. The name of the band is literally two parts put together. One is yours, one is mine, and I think that's poetry. That's just poetry. It's so poetic.
we were we were well, I think I was trying to work with something like Southern Annabelle or Southern Belle, something like that, because we were just thinking of South cliches like terms and or like Dixie or the Rust Belt or like terms like that, and I was stuck on like something like Southern Belle, Southern Annabelle, and you were over there like Casket or
It was leaking casket.
yeah, leaking casket. And I was, what about? It was one of us that was like, what about Southern Casket?
It's because like you liked casket and I liked southern, so we just kind of met in the middle. Like,
Just
why
call
not
it,
both?
yeah, let's just call it Southern Casket.
Why not
And it,
both?
that pretty much sums up what we're doing.
Yeah, and we listed probably 14 different song ideas.
Yeah, one of them was the demo track. Excuse me, not a single. The demo track we put out that was from the first night.
Yeah, we sat down for the first actual jam session, the first practice session. We sat down. We didn't have a riff. We didn't have lyrics. We just had the concept of Confederate zombies, the idea of the
Well,
South will rise again and eat the living.
but the mandolin opening. is what I was working on literally before I came over.
Right.
Yeah.
There was no groundwork laid beforehand. We just had the concept. And within a single day in one sitting, it really didn't take that long. You had fully fleshed out the riff. We had all the lyrics. The only headache we were encountering was that James, who was over here to help us, because I guess he's was he our manager now or some shit. That remains to be seen. He wanted to use Audacity, and speaking of Audacity, the Audacity to do that instead of GarageBand, which is infinitely easier to use.
It's an easier, what is it called? UI?
Ah,
Like how it looks, how everything
Yeah,
is
the user
placed.
the user interface is just more digestible. The actual platform itself is just gives you more options to play around with stuff because what if you don't have an instrument on hand? Well, if you want drums, you could just record drums
Yeah.
on the platform itself. It's just way easier to use and navigate. And I'm glad we went back and re-recorded because when we recorded on Audacity, the Confederate Zombie song, it was very rough,
Oh
very raw.
God.
Personally, I still dig it. I still really like it, but we had to tweak it a little bit more.
And I forgot the riff so many times. The only like not saying one thing or another, but for that recording we had, Chandler did vocals, he wrote the lyrics, he played banjo, and provided harmonica. I wrote all the riffs for the mandolin, guitar, and bass. And I came up with primarily all of the riffs, and I was the one that had to keep asking Chandler what the fuck was the riff again.
See, you're underselling yourself. That whole session, I felt like I was underperforming or I wasn't contributing enough, and the only reason I feel that way is because it took you 5 hours to record record everything.
Dude,
Because you had the toughest job, you had the most to do.
also, I will say for those who are recording, uh, earbuds earbuds will be night and day for you because I had to play to a track that I couldn't really hear and be in time with it to the second for it to sound right. And we're just recording off the laptop. We're recording to the podcast with, but moving forward, we're definitely going to be working with GarageBand like we should have.
Yeah, and because we're using my place as the official band pad, the designated play space as of right now. I feel like it should have been my obligation to get those first, but it didn't even occur to me because I didn't know we'd have anything recorded. It wasn't planned that when we sat down, we'd have a fully fleshed out, workable, usable song
That was
with
my plan.
with. I did. Well, I mean, that's the idea, right? That's the idea, but I didn't. It wasn't reasonable to assume that that would have been the case. But to have a fully fleshed out song with a good riff and with lyrics that actually match the song, Willow may disagree with that. I know she does, but I think,
Your vocals, your vocal performance, not the lyrics.
and I agreed with her.
Yeah.
So I think it's the third take we technically did. Uh,
Eh, I fucked. Somebody fucked up and recorded the banjo on the guitar track, and we couldn't turn it down or take out the guitar and bass like we want to do with moving forward with this track for the banjo solo. So that part is a little rough.
it's a miracle. It's a miracle we get anything done because there's very few moments of communication. Because with you and me, we're usually on the same page, but oftentimes in a different book, or we'll be like one paragraph below each other. Well, we're usually in the same vicinity of each other,
Right.
so we won't ask each other questions or be like, "Hey, what are we doing? What's going on?" We just assume that we know, and you know what they say about assuming. You make an ass out of you and me, and we kind of did that for about 5 hours.
Because we couldn't figure out how many fucking bars we were doing. If it was 4, 8, or 16, or 18.
Well,
And at
how
this point, I don't remember either.
it was 14, but that,
Right.
that might change next time we record it. Because like how I count the bars and how you were counting the bars were different. Like we both had the same quote unquote number in our head, but that number was different.
I think, and you can correct me, I think you think of the riff is the bar. One particular note or sequence of notes moving to the next one. I go off of what I can't describe because I don't know music theory, but I go off of the time signature.
which is the way to do it.
Yeah.
That's not what I was doing. I was doing like that's not how I learn. So that's why I'm fascinated because I don't consider myself a musician. I don't consider myself musically inclined like you
Me
are.
neither. I don't think I'm musically inclined. I think anybody could do this if they wanted to.
Oh yeah, that's I think that's what any skill or talent if you focus on, unless you're just stupid, which I guess is a
I,
possibility.
I will say not everybody's going to be Eddie Van Halen. Not everybody's going to be Randy Rhoads, but I also think those people started out as just you and me.
Everyone starts out from ground zero and
It's
works
just
their
some
way up.
people don't pick up classical guitar like they should, like me. That's how you become a good guitar player. Is you play classical fucking guitar.
It's a long way to the top if you want to rock and roll.
It is.
So
That's,
that's what we're doing.
it's probably my favorite AC/DC song,
Is it?
honestly. Yeah,
Wow.
it
Oh,
speaks to me.
the song oh my God, what's that?
She's got big balls.
Yeah, that's a good one. Hell's Bells. When I saw them in concert, dude, just they were just great. Like you could tell how old they were, and it wasn't like a Keith Richards instance where I'm like, oh my God, they're about to die. They're about the wind will come over and knock them over. It wasn't anything like that.
Man sat down and the singer played guitar for Keith. Mick Jagger, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So I zoned out. I was thinking about AC/DC still.
I did.
It was so
I
good.
don't blame you.
And
I don't blame.
I forgot their mascot was this big inflatable chick, this big British chick. I'm guessing she was just like floating around wearing just like scantily clothed, and it was this big balloon. It was great. It was great. I loved it. They gave me something to look at while I was listening.
It's always fun.
hmm So yeah, I love AC/DC, but they're kind of like the Titanic in the same regards, where it's kind of a moot point to say how cool they are. Like the Titanic's like, yeah, well, everyone knows the Titanic. Please talk about other maritime disasters. I'm sorry, 1,300 people didn't die in yours, but I still think the Costa Concordia is an interesting story. You know, it's not about casualty. It's not a numbers game, folks. That's not what it's about. And with
Nobody
AC,
wants to talk about AC/DC,
yes, they
Aerosmith,
do
Kiss.
on the river. That's all they play. It's constantly a cycle of Aerosmith and AC/DC and a little bit of Elton John.
That's fair.
I almost said John Elton. I'm like, that sounds like a British constable. I'm gonna write a short story about that.
Speaking of that, remember when I thought the actor that played Keeley was the actor that played Frank?
Yeah,
Um, apparently, there's also like a British rapper with the exact same name as the actor. Because it's like if you look up his name, and I forget what it is. Chadman is his last name, I think. I think it's his last name. It's this picture of the rapper, and then of the shot of Frank, like
that's funny.
his mug shots. They're not his mug shots, but what are they called when they get professionally photographed?
Portrait?
Portrait, whatever. Yeah,
Sure.
you know, promotion photos.
Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe.
yeah, yeah. It's just the rapper with some chick feeling him up, and then it's the picture of the actual actor. And then if the first picture is right above the link to the wiki, and it's just describing the actor, about how he was in Hellraiser and stuff.
That's funny. That's funny. Speaking of Keeley, by the way, uh, you watched The Hobbit for the first time.
Did
Yeah, before we continue, because I'm really gonna hand this off to you, because this is your experience. Last episode on a re-listen, I'm thinking, I'm not. Who am I speaking to? Because I'm not really adding anything. So there's two kinds of people who would be listening: people who are familiar with the material and people who are unfamiliar. For the people familiar, I'm just repeating stuff they know, so they're bored. But for people who are unfamiliar, I'm talking a bunch of mumbo jumbo they don't care about. So either way, I'm not swaying anybody. I'm not entertaining anybody. What's really interesting, especially for me as an example, is I like reactionary stuff. I like watching reaction channels, people reviewing albums or watching movies or TV shows for the first time, because I want to vicariously live through someone else's first experience, because you never forget your first, but you never have the first again. It's never quite the same. So I can rewatch The Lord of the Rings. I can rewatch the Hobbit movies, re-listen to The Wall over and over again, But sharing that with someone who hasn't experienced it is always the highlight of looking at it, re-exploring it. And that's why I like reaction channels. That's what this is. This is our reaction channel where I can be like, "Hey, have you seen this? No. Well, you're in luck because you're about to. Go ahead, take it away, buddy."
Full disclosure: The Unexpected Journey is better than Fellowship of the Ring.
Unexpectedly so.
I like okay. Before I even begin, I gotta say, after watching the 6 movies, I I just don't think I'll fit in with the Lord of the Rings crowd because personally, I think I said Two Towers. Two Towers was the best. Return of the King, and then Fellowship of the Ring, and then I'll just say this now instead of keeping everybody in bated breath about how much I don't understand the movies we're watching and have really bad tastes. After watching all the Hobbit movies, I think that Fellowship of the Ring is the weakest, and that doesn't mean that it's a bad movie
Because you
because
put it in C tier.
yeah, it's just I don't think it's better than the last 2 Hobbit movies. I think I I think honestly sometimes after I finished watching it and I was going over what I would be saying on the show, I couldn't like I, like subjectively I'm like I think An Unexpected Journey is right up there with the Two Towers, but I know objectively I can't put it above Return of the King.
Who you scared of pissing off?
No, it's not a matter of pissing off people, but like in terms of the feats that they did in the movie.
Right.
I'm like,
The scale of it.
yeah, because Unexpected Journey is just a better written Fellowship of the Ring, in my opinion. I think it follows this pretty similar. Like even with like, I mean, it happened later in the movies, but like when Frodo gets stabbed with the knife and he's poisoned, Keeley gets poisoned by an orc arrow. It's like the same shit, but it was just like I just think all of these are just doing what they did better.
You know, I didn't even think about that parallel. Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, I know objectively Lord of the Rings is a better story. I just enjoyed The Hobbit better.
You think Healy looks like Frank from Hellraiser? I think he looks like Dream. Like if he had like a different hair,
Dude,
just like Chad, that chiseled Chad chin. He's not a
I
dwarf.
think it's fucking hilarious that pull up the list. Pull up the
All right,
list.
so he had me the night before list all the most important characters in the Hobbit movies. So I have it right here. So what you want me to do is you want me to list them off, or you want to describe the character so I can tell you what it is.
The elf guy that shoots arrows. That was
Legolas.
yes. I was right there. I was thinking I was gonna say Legolas, but I'm like, all right, let
Let's do
me
this right for once,
right.
and not call it the Twin Towers.
Where and speaking of which, I love Dildo Haggins' story, his character, so much more than Frodo's.
Oh yeah,
He's just a better written character, and it really shows both sides that like Bilbo Haggins is the hero, but he's not like the best in terms of like he's not uh lawful good. You
no,
know, he's not lawful good like Frodo is until the end, but that's not his fault.
no.
He's just weak.
Drugs will do that to you. Right.
But just the beginning was so good because it spliced like new footage, even though they're like especially at the ending, it's literally just the same shot except that instead of panning towards the door, they pan to the map.
Which was in Fellowship. Gandalf picks it up,
Hmm.
and if you're unfamiliar with the story, you're probably thinking, "Well, what's that about?" Or even during the party, the festival they have, or excuse me, his birthday. Um, Bilbo's talking about the story with the trolls.
Hmm.
It's all very brief glimpses into the past, but it so seamlessly going from the Hobbit to the Lord of the Rings. It's so seamless. I'll give it that as a prequel. It does flow remarkably well into each other.
You the good a good way to make a prequel is to have it not affect the main line, and if it does affect it, it's effective in its act. like with Sauron's return in the Hobbit series. That was perfectly executed because there wasn't like a. It explained why he's in Mordor. He banished him to the north. Mordor's in the north,
It's to
right?
the east.
To the east. That's you're right. That's what she said, right? Whoever said it.
Galadriel.
Somebody said it, right? So he's banished to the east. He's in Mordor, and just that final act is just really really good. I mean, obviously, I felt like that should have been it after they killed the dragon and have a really happy ending. But then you name the movie from the perspective of not reading The Hobbit, right? These are just a brand new story to me. Like I've never seen it. I've heard glimpses and everything just because of hearing stuff from Lord of the Rings.
Right.
But this was a full like even with Lord of the Rings, I'd seen Fellowship of the Ring before I went into this. But with this, I hadn't seen any of the Hobbit movies, and personally, I had a better time with the Hobbit movies than any of the Lord of the Rings movies.
The stakes are lower. They're more fun. It's more whimsical. There's more comedy. They're not shying away
It's
from
so
it.
fucking funny. It's it that first like that's why I love. I'm not big on comedy movies, but I would that unexpected journey was the funniest fucking thing I've seen in a while. Like, and I don't think it was intentionally to be that funny, like how funny I thought it was, but it just made it so much more enjoyable because it's like, dude, like as I said during the Lord of the Rings, I felt like it's a very serious story, but these characters are incompetent and they're just only making it by God's grace.
Like literally.
Yeah, but with this, it seems like God's not on their side, but at the same time, the stakes are so low. Who the fuck cares? You know, because like even in the story, most of the characters don't give a fuck about the dwarves.
No, the story is about learning why people should care. Like it goes back to Lord of the Rings with Treebeard and with other characters like Theoden. It's other people's problem. Why should it be our problem? Why should we care? Part of the story is learning why you should care, and a great way to do that is through comedy. However, like not just to the characters in the story, but to the audience. Why should the audience care? I think endearment is and charisma of the character is far more potent to win an audience over than comedy. Just because I'm laughing at something doesn't mean I particularly think it's important or that I care about it. I'm like, oh, that was a funny joke, haha. But to have characters that I'm smiling and laughing just because they're having a good time.
I think it also goes kind of the opposite way sometimes with the who's the fat guy with the mustache? Who's the mayor king guy?
Oh, I don't remember the character's name, but his name's Stephen Fry. The actor's name is Stephen
So
Fry.
Stephen Fry's character, and and this is a really good like kind of like out of our proportion in terms of what we're talking about, but a good thing that people need to remember is that just because you hate somebody doesn't mean that there isn't a level of care with it. Because if you hate somebody so much, you care enough to remember who they are.
That's a good written character.
Yeah, whether it's a real person or not. Stephen Fry's character, right, is so enjoyably so enjoyable to hate because he's so well written to just be despicable, and it's not like he's like bashing babies' heads in. No, he's a rich asshole.
Yeah, he's not like Denethor levels of despicable, where he wants to burn his own son. This is he's just scummy, but you can't blame the guy. He's a mayor of Lake Town, but he lives lavishly like a king, and you just gotta give the guy points.
How'd you pull this off?
To have the entire town practically worship you, despite how fat and scummy you are.
Yeah,
Not that the fat part has anything to do with it, but living lavishly like a king in the middle of this lake at the foot of a mountain controlled by a dragon. Like one thing I love about the world of Middle Earth before I let you continue is let you.
yeah.
Before I let you continue is I
Dobby's got the suck.
geographically I know where everything is. I have a map of Middle Earth in the other room. It
Yeah.
only encompasses Eriador, like Rohan and Gondor aren't on it, but like I think Minas Tirith is like the very right hand corner, so it doesn't even have Mordor on there. So it's not really a good.
We gotta
It's
get you
literally
an upgrade.
it's literally Middle Earth There's not even like a quarter of the map. But
You just had a map of center of America. You're not gonna get shit from it.
it's like, well, this
What
doesn't
was
help
this?
me.
Because half the states around it are cut off.
Yeah, it's like this doesn't help me. Where is this? If you don't know, you don't know.
Right.
Um, like especially Wyoming. Where the fuck is that? I don't know. No one does.
I know it's in the north,
It's somewhere. I
northwest.
think it's an American state. I'm not quite sure.
I don't know those Canadians.
But it's like I know geographically where everything is in Middle Earth. If they say, oh, it's at Weathertop, I know exactly where that is in relationship to other places. I know where Erebor is. I know where all these locations are in relation to each other, which makes for someone like me who loves battles and war, I love looking at a map and being like, okay, where are all the troops at? Where are they moving to? How many troops do they have?
That
What?
was a good shot in Downfall when he's moving all the
Mhm.
troops and everything.
And they're like, most of these pieces don't even exist anymore.
Right.
But that's fun to me is to look at what's the number of the armies.
Battle layouts, battle plans.
Yeah, like I'm the kind of guy that in place in like in lieu of having a model train set in the basement, if I had either a basement or a model train set, I would have in lieu of that, I think I'd put a big massive like war game on the table.
Put Warhammer.
It'd literally just be Warhammer, yeah.
Yeah.
Like
I.
Warhammer or just miniature like Napoleonic figurines.
Mhm.
But it makes stuff way more enjoyable where I know what's going on at all times. I know the entire layout. I know where that mountain is. I know where that lake is. I know where Lake Town is in relation to the mountain. I know where the city of Dale is. Like they're all right there.
Mhm.
I know where, and it's so weird how they're these isolated kingdoms, but they're like a stone throw away from each other.
I I'm starting to get like that in Skyrim, and it's really weird to be so like, because for me, like in real life, I can't remember street names, I can't remember roads, I can't remember highways, but I remember a path.
Mhm. Like muscle memory.
Yeah, like I can drive to my parents' house over in Milledgeville without even looking at GPS. I could drive here. I can drive to my parents' old place. I could even drive to my grandparents' lake house. They haven't lived in it in like 6 years. I remember where how to get there, and it's so interesting to me to like have that kind of experience, but with a fictional thing like you with the map of Middle Earth. And for me right now, I'm starting to really get a grasp of the landscape and just remembering, okay, that rock means that I'm on this part of the map, and I need to go this far up. And it's fun. It's really fun because it gives another understanding of the game that isn't gameplay.
And I think it has application outside the game itself too. Because especially playing Morrowind, I got so good at memorizing rocks in the particular shape of trees that I knew exactly where I was because of the shape of. Like, tell me that's not the most southern thing. Like that's southern
Yeah,
directions
that's
right
just
there.
us, man. Southern Casket.
That's
You gotta take a right down the tree,
go yonder ways down a piece.
past the cornfield, take a left at the stop sign.
Oh, it's like that one country song about going back for that sweet lady's tea.
Yeah, I
There's
know.
like
Yeah.
just the whole song is just directions on how to get back there, but it's never like the name of a street or a
hmm
road. You take a left here and you take a right
Three
there.
stones down.
Yeah, and it's gonna lead you all the way back to me. Like stuff like that's Southern directions. And when it comes to fictional stuff, a great way to engage with it is like maps. It's
Mhm.
just learning where everything is in relation to each other, and it's so fun with The Hobbit because it's coming off the heels of Lord of the Rings.
You
Like,
have a pretty good understanding of the map. Now you're going to places you haven't seen.
and not just that, the geopolitics of it. Because like
That's my favorite part of like
there's so much,
storytelling is politics.
not in real life, but in
No.
media, it enhances it and gives it depth. Like
And
it's not just static figurines on a board being moved in one direction or another. Like no, there's conspiracies, there's
mhm.
machinations, there's people behind the scenes working for some greater end. There's The Hobbit has a lot of really cool politics.
Who did you tell about the quest? Nobody. Nobody, Gandalf. Who did you tell?
It's like this secret covert operation. That's one of my favorite because they're not covert at all.
No.
It's the secret thing. Literally, everyone in Middle Earth knows what they're doing. by the time
They
they
just
killed
don't care.
her.
That's the best part. The only people that cared were the actual guardians of Middle Earth, and they were only like, I just think you're just doing this for the wrong reason. Not like the dwarves shouldn't have their mountain back, they shouldn't have their king or anything. No, Gandalf, I just don't think you have the right interests. Gandalf, I really think this is more of a passion project than really
It's a side
something
hustle.
that's.
Like, that's how it feels because Gandalf's one of these all powerful like Maya who are sent to Middle Earth by God to guide people, and you got people like Saruman who thinks like the best way to keep evil at bay is through strength and power, and like Radagast is in the woods doing what the fuck he's doing.
He was so good, man. I loved him so
Oh, I knew
much.
you would be the environmentalist that you are. Of course, you like Radagast the Brown, the shit on his face. I feel like Radagast right now. I feel just disgusting. Like when you got here, I haven't even bathed yet. I threw on some cologne and called it a day. I think I'm Radagast.
I mean, I've showered within 24 hours because I
That's better than
showered
me.
before I went to the bar last night. That's why we did have it up today already. I went to a bar last night. I
Capped
mean,
it off with Waffle House.
yeah, I mean, I'm keeping in quote unquote character. Yeah, sorry guys, the podcast.
Got delayed because he went to a bar. Like I couldn't even be bad. I'm like, I mean, that's fair.
That sounds like something. Yeah, all right.
It makes for a good story. I'll allow it. What am I gonna do? Say no?
Oh
It,
yeah.
like if I said no, would you have been like, fine, I'll go do your stupid show, talk
And
about the Hobbit instead of
no,
going to the bar?
I really do apologize. We are business partners, but something that eventually you'll understand that when you have a woman in your life, some decisions aren't yours.
Fair enough. This is why I don't allow myself to. The reason I'm single right now is two reasons: money, because I love money too much, and two,
Greedy bastard.
I am a greedy bastard. I would have been down that submersible if I had the money. Damn straight. And number two is uh, I don't like responsibility that I can't 100% control every facet of. So instead of allowing myself to be that kind of guy and be like really controlling and commandeering, I just be like, if I can just control myself, I think I'm doing okay. And even that's a hassle from day to day,
Yeah.
as we all
Amen,
know.
brother.
Damn straight. Hobbit. I want to say this about the Unexpected Journey is it's one of those background movies you could put on. There's just like radio static in the background because it's just so cozy and comfortable, and it's like a warm blanket. With the other movies, anytime I put on Lord of the Rings, I have to be 100% invested.
Like, I'm not even kidding you. Like, Return of the King. After I finished it, I was like, that was a good movie, but fuck me, I'm tired.
It's exhausting. You
I haven't
so
seen
much
a movie
happens.
in a long time where it exhausted me because of how much, like, there's a lot of thinking going on because you got to remember who are these characters? Why does this matter? Who are these people connected to? Why are they at war? What, who's leading what army? What the fuck is Gandalf doing right now?
That's always in any of these movies. That's always like, oh yeah, what the hell's Gandalf doing?
Yeah,
Even in these movies.
it's funny I even say that because, like, at the end of what is it, the Smog one? What is it called?
Desolation of Smaug.
Desolation of Smaug,
Smaug, yeah.
Smaug. Get out, like in the middle of the movie, like not okay. So like I would say in the middle between middle and end, he's in the cage at Dalmore.
Dol Guldur. Dol Guldur.
I was close.
I've
I
never
was
actually said it out loud. Like, I know how to say it, but like on the topic of language, of course, Tolkien, being the linguist that he was, created a lot of fictional languages, and he created black speech for the orcs, which is very rarely used except by Sauron, who I didn't want to spoil it for you. Yeah, he's the necromancer at Dol Guldur.
I caught it.
I love this is gonna sound weird, but I think black speech is kind of sexy. Not in like a German way, like how James thinks German is sexy. When I'm just like it's just
Oh,
nasally and gross sounding.
which European country was mine?
Oh, that you thought was sexy or
Yeah,
gross?
sexy.
Was it French?
No,
They call it.
was it Belgium?
Oh yeah, you think Belgium's really sexy?
Oh,
See,
dude.
I agree the Belgian language is sexy, but their noses throw me off. It looks like Lois's nose from Family Guy. It looks like a
Hey,
cut sandwich.
Peter.
It looks like a cut like a
Well, I'll
cut.
leave the impressions to you.
I'm not even gonna try.
Yeah,
I was going for it. I'm not even gonna try after
I
the
think
last
you do
impression
a
I did.
pretty good Joe.
Hey, Peter.
That's pretty good.
Hey, Peter. That's all I
Fuck,
can.
we were talking about language.
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 Yeah, language. We need to watch our language. We're
Yeah,
talking about some wholesome, family-friendly stuff. But yeah,
it's a
like
kid's
how,
book.
like if you really want to engage, it's something that I've seen so many YouTube channels, so many Tolkien professors, Tolkien critics, people who their entire life is just examining his fictional world. And I'm like, what a fucking flex to create something with so much depth that people to this day are still spending hours and hours, days and years just trying to figure out the languages you made. Just the languages.
I mean, you could say the same about our boy Lovecraft.
Yeah.
And or I think in a lesser way, but like kind of in the same vein, Edgar Allan Poe.
Hmm.
It still is beyond me to think that his writing is still so good, even though it was written in the 1800s. And when he went to Richmond University, that was the second year it was open. Like he was like that. He died when he was like 30 something. I could be wrong, but like how the timeline looks is like he was probably a kid when the Constitution was signed. Like that's how fucking old he was. Like I was, my math might have been off, but he didn't live long into the 18th century.
No, he died in what, 1830s, 1840s?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's even sadder. It's like I watched something on him the other day, and I got a little teary eye when it because his work has been like my gateway into crafting poetry and crafting lyrics. Is his sonnets what really got me? His types of sonnets really what got me going. But he only made $14 off the Raven, and that's the only money he ever made, pretty much off of his. That was, and the Raven was his biggest hit.
It
That was
still
the
is.
is the only one that was recognized during his time was the Raven, and he only made $14 off of it.
Mask of the Red Death is so good.
The Telltale Heart,
Telltale Heart is another, just
the Fall of the
so
House,
good.
the how the
House of
fall,
Usher.
the House of the Fall of
The
House
House
of
of
Usher.
Usher.
Yeah, there's Pit and the Pendulum.
It's almost a shame. I mean, it is a shame, but then you look at people like Herman Melville with the writing of Moby Dick. That was a critical failure. It
Mm.
flopped. You want to talk about a catastrophic failure? Moby Dick was. No one gave two shits. It was too esoteric. It was too highbrow for people at the time to understand. They didn't get it. They weren't ready. It's like Da Vinci making aerial flight and fucking tanks in the 1400s. No one was ready for that yet. No one was
I
ready.
love that. I love because that's kind of how I was in like middle school. Because
Oh yeah, Da Vinci. You like Da Vinci in middle
a
school?
little bit, yeah. I don't know why I had this relationship with my science teacher. He was really cool and very like enthusiastic with all. I would come up with schematics for different inventions and stuff like that, and a lot of the time he would say he's like you're you're right there. It's just your math and science offs because you don't understand how the world works. Because this is middle school science. You're learning about rocks. All right, give it a couple of years. You'll be doing physics and chemistry, and you'll figure out why this is close but no cigar.
You have the cigar. It's just not lit.
Right.
You don't know how to light it.
No, it's like literally I so like Da Vinci was trying to make flight in the 1400s, and little Slug in middle school was try to try to figure out how to terraform Mars in the most quintessential and environmentally friendly way.
When I was in elementary school, I had nothing like that. I wasn't trying to actively come up with solutions to problems. I wasn't creating schematics to stuff that could be feasible with the resources I have available. I simply wanted to bang my second grade teacher. And she actually wasn't even my teacher. Like, I went in her classroom to wait for the bus to get there.
Right.
So I only saw her from like 10, 15 minutes a day at most. and he's got like 4 drinks. He keeps spilling them.
Dude, I
He's
don't know.
waving
I'm
his
just
luscious hair
thirsty.
back, his hair
I
back and
got
forth.
I got it braided just for this episode. You want to hear something loud?
Other me want to bang. Oh wait, no.
All right.
Okay, now we're ready. Now his monster's open. Now we're cooking with gas.
Yeah, I already finished my orange juice. I got my water, my Gatorade, and my Monster.
And your Jack Daniels.
Let's see.
We'll see. We'll see how far we get.
Yeah.
I already had a few swigs. So in second grade, I wanted to bang this teacher that wasn't even mine. And
That's fair.
how I approached this, how I wanted to snag her lust.
How to seduce your second grade teacher.
I like to say snag. I'm gonna snag her lust for me because I know it's there. I just have to fish for it. So how this happened was I every day I would sit there, get out my journal, and I draw schematics for a time machine I was gonna make. And at the end of every class, I'd show her how far along I came with my like Jules Verne-esque time machine or my H.G. Wells type time machine. And I got these
Another
pictures,
good writer.
and
Oh my god.
and dude, there was literally like no math at all. I would write random numbers in a random sequence with fictional like fictitious type of algebra that didn't even exist. It was just made up mathematics. And I would show her at the end of our class trying to seduce her. And it never worked, probably because it was just squibbles on a page that made zero sense. But that's because they weren't on my level yet.
Right. You invented another level of algebra that the Middle East could just never figure out.
See, that's kind of what I'm hoping happens in the same vein as Tolkien, is that people look back on our comic books from like middle school, you and me, or look back on our old schematics for you terraforming Mars on my
Dude,
time
somebody
machine.
somebody has that notebook of, with how like descriptions, diagrams, and like in depth in depth concept of how to terraform Mars.
Elon
Like
Musk has it. You're right. Elon Musk
he
has your
stole
journal.
my book from middle school.
So we know for a fact the only reason that if we don't have time travel is because my numbers were off. And if we don't terraform Mars, it's because Elon Musk has Slug's journal from middle school.
And nobody wants to let him do anything.
But if he does terraform Mars, we have Slug to thank.
You're welcome.
And if we achieve time travel, you're welcome.
Super dude, man.
James Joyce is one of my favorite writers. He's one of my favorite styles of writers. Like his work is for me is very difficult. In the same vein as like Thomas Pynchon or Cormac McCarthy, or it's like
Gothic romantic
yeah, it's kind of
stuff.
it's kind of difficult to get into. It's very dense in almost like with Lord of the Rings, where you just have to constantly focus on everything you're doing. It's not an easy experience. You got to constantly be thinking, well, what does this word mean? How does this relate to this? And it's work. It's like playing Minecraft in survival mode. It's like there's not a second where you have to waste. You have to constantly be working and doing something. It's not a leisurely.
We gotta play again.
It's not a leisurely. No, you're gonna blow up my house with dynamite or TNT. But I bring up James Joyce, for example, because he wrote a lot of great books like Dubliners. He wrote a lot of big pieces, but I think the one that stumps the most people is Finnegan's Wake, which is one of the biggest shit posts I've ever seen an author do. You want to talk about flexing your knowledge of the English language? I mean, yeah, read Tolkien because he's an actual linguist, but James Joyce straight up wrote letters and letters to his wife, talk about how much he loves her farts. But he would use the most descriptive, flowery language he could possibly use to describe a woman's fart. And then he's got shit posts like Finnegan's Wake, which is it's just nonsense. Like I think it does mean something, but to this day, people are still trying to figure out what the fuck Finnegan's Wake is about. I think it's about waking up the Irish people to revolt against the British, and that's why it's so cryptic. Personally, I think it's like the Winter Soldier in Marvel, where he's got these buzzwords that the Soviets put in his head, but he doesn't know it. It's all like subliminal messaging that makes him go off. I think Finnegan's Wake is like Soviet. Okay, it's not Soviet, but it's like cryptic Irish subliminal messaging to start a coup in Ireland against the British. That's what I think it is. That's what I think. I also think a way to round this back out. to involve the Hobbit, the main topic of today's episode, is relating it to Edgar Allan Poe. There's a in the Hobbit. There's toward the end of the book. There's a talking raven character that every time I see it or read about it, it reminds me of Edgar Allan Poe because you don't see a lot of too many talking ravens in media, despite the fact they're one of the few birds who can actually articulate words other than parrots.
Yeah.
I have a parakeet downstairs, won't say shit to me. I've been trying to teach that damn thing English language for years.
Some people can't get it.
But just like the Raven, I guess we won't get an adaptation of the Raven from The Hobbit. Nevermore.
Nevermore.
Nevermore. So, have we hit all the major points we wanted to hit involving Unexpected Journey? I only think we talked about the actual plot, like a Zog and the war between the dwarves and the. I don't think that's necessarily
Yes.
necessary because if you've seen it, then this is just our thoughts on it. More importantly, Slug's thoughts on it. But if you haven't seen it, then what the hell are you doing here?
Go listen.
Go either if you don't like reading books, you listen to an audiobook. If you like to read physical media like we do, just crack open a book and read it with your eyes. Or if you're too lazy for literature, then the movie's the way to go. Just know that it's critically panned by most people who watch it.
Dude,
I don't get
I'm
it.
not
But
most people.
no, you're not. That's a damn fact. No, you're not.
I'm not most people, man. I think these were better than the Lord of the Rings movies.
You just have the hottest takes.
Yeah, I'm that controversial.
Just thinking that the Two Towers is the best one, which
It
I
is.
like. I don't think there's a
It is.
single. I don't think there's a single movie Lord of the Rings where it's not like Attack of the Clones or any of the Star Wars movies where it's very divisive and people get mad if you have an opinion that's not their own. With Lord of the Rings, it's like it's literally the Chad meme. You got the guys like, no, you can't say Attack of the Clones is the best Star Wars movie. Lord of the Rings fans, Two Towers is the best. Okay,
Yeah,
I can see that. It's not mine, but yeah, you like
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings too?
yeah, that's enough.
They're
Yeah.
all good. They're all good. That's
I-
why when you say Fellowship isn't at the top of the list, it's at the bottom of your list. The list is comprised of only Lord of the Rings and Hobbit movies. So even though it's the lowest, it's still better than most movies.
Yeah, it's better than. So we were even entertaining this. So like, if we mixed all the 6 Star Wars movies, and all or excuse me, 9. Forgot
That's not a bad way to be. I
nine
like to
nine
forget.
movies, and then the 6 Lord of the Rings movies. Um, so I would say that the only one that would probably beat A New Hope would be the Two Towers for me. And then after, so you would have, obviously everybody knows by now, Attack of the Clones, Empire Strikes Back, Revenge of the Sith. Then you have for me, Return of the Jedi, and then it would be the Two Towers, and then it would be uh, A New Hope, and then it would be the rest of the Hobbit, and basically all of them ranked above the Phantom Menace, and then all the Disney ones. I think the Two Towers is the only one that I'm like, okay, it's better than the quintessential Star Wars movie.
All the ones that matter.
Yeah,
We still need to redo the Star Wars episode because it was not as comprehensive as I would have liked it to be.
time restraints, man.
Yeah, I don't even think we talked about the Filoni verse.
Oh, we did because I don't know what that
We
is.
didn't even get to talk about Mandalorian or any of that shit.
I could talk about the Bad Batch.
Though you watched both seasons or just the first season?
By the time we do the second episode, I will have watched the second season.
If it's required viewing to do the episode, you're gonna watch it.
Yeah, well, that's why I need Peaky Blinders to be required.
You know, we gotta finish Breaking Bad first.
Yeah,
We're so close. But you actually did finish Peaky Blinders, which would mean you'd have to rewatch the entire thing with me because that stopped in season 2.
it's so good. I'm excited for that. I really would love to just have an excuse to rewatch it. I'm so excited for the movie, man.
When we see Oppenheimer, oh, I mean, yeah, like there's an actual Peaky Blinders movie coming up. But as far as Oppenheimer with Cillian Murphy, I think we should dress up. like
Peaky
Peaky Blinder
Blinders.
characters.
Yeah, I'd do that. Yeah,
I already have a steampunk outfit. If I just take the gears off the hat and the goggles off, I think I can look like I'm from Birmingham
yeah.
in
I was gonna.
like 1919 or 1918, whatever it's said.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not opposed to suits, but it's just not me. You know. But for this occasion, I'll totally do it. But we're doing it for the right reason, not the Minions movie.
Would you go LARPing with me if it was Hobbit themed? What would that even look like? What's a LARPing session of The Hobbit? Is that just a
Right
bunch of
now,
this
yeah.
smoking and drinking?
Or pipe weed, yeah.
Oh, I love when Saruman's like, I think the halfling's leaf has addled your brain.
No, what he said was, the Brown eats too much mushrooms from the
Oh, that's
forest.
from The Hobbit. In when they're at Isengard in Fellowship of the Ring, Saruman says something to the effect of, "I think the halfling's leaf has slowed your mind."
Oh,
And then Saruman just doesn't like drug use. I don't know what his deal is. He needs to be such an old time stickler for the old ways.
dude. I okay, so perfect. Before we even leave, Unexpected Journey, there out of the entire series, there was only two scenes that I got teary eyed in the same movie. In The Hobbit, and everybody's gonna predict it, but when Sebastian died, I was like, "Don't do this to me. It's too early to start the movie like this." And then when Saruman came on screen, I was like, "Oh shit,
That's Christopher Lee, man.
that's his last. That these movies were his last performance."
It happens a lot. I don't know why this is the case, but I don't know why I can't turn off notifications before we start recording, but that's neither here nor there. With a lot of actors and musicians, even, it's, they'll put out one last thing, but they'll die like right before it releases or right after. It's like somehow they know. It's very prophetic in that way. But Christopher Lee, if you watch interviews with him beforehand, you can you kind of know it's coming. It's still get this very strong, profound presence on screen. I mean, the dude's doing metal.
Mhm.
The guy's in metal bands. The guy has fought in wars. He has a kill streak.
He
Killtastrophe.
was
Kilimanjaro.
he was knighted.
He was knighted. Yeah. This guy's lived one of the most interesting lives possible. So you almost can't feel too bad because he's more accomplished than any of us will ever be. And he's lived longer than I think you and me combined will probably live.
Yeah,
But he's one of the most distinguished actors ever. Played Dracula, Count Dooku, and Saruman.
that's what I was literally telling Willow last night. I was talking about the Hobbit movies to her, and I just got caught up on Saruman. I didn't even finish talking about the rest of the movies. I just
Discussion about Christopher Lee
yeah, he's honestly a top five actor for me if I really
ever.
think about it. Yeah,
Just intense.
it's so good, and I really think the only other character I would have liked to seen him play is maybe a character from Harry Potter.
Ooh, like have him play Snape. Like an older version of Snape.
Yeah,
I could see that.
yeah, because he
If
still has the
Snape didn't die.
yeah. Uh, but with Saruman, I felt like his last performance was his most powerful. Like in talking about saying that the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit are one thing, one project.
Hmm.
Um, it's just his most powerful. And I'm just gonna be if I keep going, I'm just gonna be repeating what I said about in Lord of the Rings that I think it's his best performance in terms of his most powerful, the most intimidating, and the most like eloquence with it too. I think I described it as being a gentleman, but I think eloquence now is the better word because like he's not evil, but he's also a really powerful wizard. You know, he's going with his gut.
I like how they sow the seeds in an unexpected journey and in the following subsequent films where you can see why he would turn to the darkness because he's all powerful. He's the leader of of these group of wizards, and he holds himself very clearly in high regard as he should, being an emissary from heaven itself. You know, this guy has a lot of influence, a lot of power, so he holds himself as such. And yet you got this Gandalf fella smoking pipe weed, hanging out with little folk, putting on fireworks shows, and everyone loves him. I think it boils down to jealousy. That he thinks just because like he thinks might makes right, and he doesn't see any use in dabbling with the little folk or trying to engage in anything that isn't outside his own sphere of influence or power. It just can't conceive it. Like he needs to be important. He needs to be number one. He needs to be the one in control, and that's why he turns to darkness. And even though he's good throughout all the Hobbit movies, you can see why he would turn to darkness. Because despite all of his power, people still like Gandalf more. And you can tell in some of the choreographed scenes when they're fighting, like, yeah, they just put some wig on a dude, some stunt actor, and had him do some of the fight choreography. You know it's not
Because
Christopher Lee.
it's fair. It's fair.
Oh,
At
I
this
mean, of
point, yeah,
course.
I don't give a fuck.
Christopher Lee showed up.
Right.
Ian McKellen, who plays Gandalf, fell asleep multiple times during shoots.
I thought he was asleep, like a lot of like this scene at the in the Decimation of Smog, where he's in the cage. I think he's asleep. Like honestly, like it's not just like the actor is like playing somebody who's sleeping. That man is asleep. And then when he's getting revived by the elf chick,
Her
fuck you,
name's Thariel.
Thoriel, when she's getting healed, he's just. I genuinely believe he's asleep in that scene too.
There's so many behind the scenes clips where like Peter Jackson has to come wake him up because he's just snoozing and cruising. It's
That's so
great.
cool for him, though. I think that I think the older actors, I think, as much as they're not in well, except like Gandalf, obviously, but like these real action scenes, they're they find enjoyment of like just being there, you know.
Oh yeah.
Because an idea that I would have as if I was an actor who was aging, people are still wanting me to do really cool characters
Hmm.
and letting me do what I would do best, you know? Like with Christopher Lee being a very powerful voice and playing Saruman is perfect for him. Or
Luckily for him being old, actually for all the wizards being old, they have staffs already.
yeah.
That's their walking cane.
Right, yeah.
It's half the problem solved right there.
Like that was such a good joke. Like I will still say The Hobbit really understands the comedy of in all of it more than Lord of the Rings. But the one that really got me is when Gandalf is going up into Rohan, and they're like, "You got to give me the staff too." And he's like, "You're really gonna take an old man's walking stick?"
Oh, Grima Wormtongue's like, I told you to take the staff from the wizard. I told you to take the wizard's staff. He's just so disappointed. He's like, I told you guys.
I enjoyed his character more than Alfred.
Alfred is just a
Alfred
lesser. He's a
sucks, man.
lesser version of Grima Wormtongue.
No.
Because like you can tell, it's a character role he's trying to fit, but it just doesn't work because it's literally the same character, but he's not as good as Brad Dourif. Because of course he's not. Of course he's not as good as Brad Dourif. No shit. Go
uh,
figure.
I just didn't like it's.
It's not like Stephen Fry's character where he's you hate you love to hate him. With him, it's just like, can you not be on screen
Can
for
we get
5 seconds,
somebody else?
please? Literally
Like,
anybody.
I don't think it takes away from the story. I really think that it's like I really think that's important to a story to have a character like that, where it's just like, man, fuck this guy, so that you don't care whatsoever happens to the character, and then when you're watching him do his misdeeds, you're like, oh, it's coming,
Is
it's
Alfred
coming.
is Alfred a trans icon?
That's funny, but that's not in the same vein as calling Leatherface a trans icon.
No.
There's actual substance there.
Or like what they said about Jefferson Davis when the South fell and he was dressing like a woman to flee.
Right, yeah.
It's just kind of it's more sad than anything.
Yeah.
It's like it wasn't even funny. It's just get the fuck off my screen. I want to see real stuff happen.
Right, yeah.
Characters I like. Get out of here.
Get the fuck out of here.
Die already. You never would.
Ugh.
You ready to move on to number two? Or oh, actually, before we do that, I mean, this is kind of between all three of these movies, but are they trying to hit at a little something spicy going on between Galadriel and Gandalf? Are you picking up those sexual tensions?
There's yeah, a little bit.
She's married.
Hmm.
What's going on? Like they wrote that into the script, and like the way that maybe they're just because Kate Blanchett and maybe Ian McKellen really get along very well. Maybe that's it. Of course, Ian McKellen's gay, so it's not like Kate Blanchett and him are like hitting it up behind the scenes or anything.
No,
But maybe they just had like really good on-screen chemistry together, being wise and older. Uh,
and the level of respect for each other, and respect and mutual love for each other that is just platonic.
I think it's just platonic, but like
But the way that it's written, yeah.
you kind of pick up these.
But when you really sit down and analyze these two characters, you just really see that their bond is stronger than most marriages.
So when you rewatch Lord of the Rings, yeah, she's probably well, she's been married to this guy for thousands of years now. She's probably sick and tired of his ass. Some people can't stand each other after a year or two. So it's like,
I don't understand why it's day and night. Like the high elves are cool, and then the wood elves are just dicks.
dude, dude, Thranduil is just an asshole. Legolas's father.
Yeah, and I don't think it was enough for me to feel like he was redeemed at the end when he's like, it hurts because the love was real. I really don't think that was enough redemption for him because it's like just because it's like one thing, like even if he was going after those diamonds, he could have just said that, hey, we're gonna stay here a little bit, but we brought the food for you. You know, this is really for you. This is about you, not us coming here for a strategic point on this castle. You know, I felt like that would have been played better in the like little things like the way he says things could have the quote unquote redemption at the end had been more powerful. But because he was just a constant dick the entire movie and making decisions that are just like if it ain't elf, it ain't right.
It bothers me because the ultimate goal for him was to get the diamonds,
Hmm?
to get the Arkenstone, which I think the Arkenstone is a Cimmeril. I've heard a few other people voice the same thought. Of course, you don't know what the Cimmeril is.
No,
Don't worry about it. But it's pretty much the ring, but before the rings. That's kind of like
like
um
what they were used to make the ring.
no, but it's like it was an item of power that Morgoth sought, just like Sauron seeks the One Ring. The Cimmerils were they captured. Oh shit! Here we go. So the Cimmerils were made to I almost said Fenrir. I believe by Finrod. I could be wrong on that. It's been a while since I read the Silmarillion. I read it in high school, but they would.
Fucking nerd.
So the world at first didn't have the moon and the sun.
Mhm.
It had the light of the lamps. Morgoth destroyed the lamps. Then it was the light of the trees. And this is all happening on Valinor. The rest of the world is shrouded completely in darkness and overrun by monsters. Of these monsters, one of them, which is a literally a Lovecraftian being with no explanation of where it came from, but is simply born from the darkness, is a giant spider, that's Shelob's mother, Ungoliant. So Shelob's mother
Is
from
she
Lord of the
hot
Rings,
too?
huh?
Is she hot too?
No, it's just a giant eldritch being that happens to take the form of a spider. But like that's why a lot of people. That's why a lot of people took issue with Shelob's presentation in Shadow of War because she's a shapeshifter that's really super sexy and takes the form of a spider. But if you look at what the spiders are in the mythology, they can shapeshift. They just choose to form of spiders. Like Ungoliant was a shapeshifting elder god from the darkness, and she could turn into whatever she wanted. But with her and Morgoth, they destroyed the light of the trees. Like they, because Ungoliant loved to eat dark or eat light, because she was all about darkness and would spin webs of darkness to cover the world, and she ate all the light from the trees.
That's such a good visual metaphor.
Hmm.
Spinning the webs that darken the world.
That's so cool. Like
Because
this,
that's a lot of layers of fucking spider webs because there's gaps. You know, there's gaps in the webs to have that many layers of
but
spider webs.
to create eternal darkness through the webs that she spins.
Yeah.
But see, Morgoth's whole thing was being jealous of the Ainur and in Arul Luvatar and the creation aspect of everything. He wanted the power to create. So he was going to destroy creation, get the power of creation, and then recreate creation with the power of creation that he stole. You feel me?
I feel you.
You follow me, dog?
Yeah.
So so after that, Morgoth wants to destroy the world, and he thought Ungoliant shared like the same desire. But then she turns on him, and Morgoth, who is the personification of evil incarnate, screams out in pain and has to be rescued by an army of Belrogs. So we don't know what happened to Ungoliant. She kind of just disappeared, and Tolkien himself speculates that Ungoliant like ate herself. She was so hungry that she devoured her own self like an Ouroboros.
Hmm.
It's interesting, like how craving destruction will inevitably end in your own destruction. I guess is the theme at play there. But the whole point of any of this is that the elves took the light from the trees. They were like seeds, right? And they implanted the light of the trees in the Silmarils, which contained the power of light itself. And he sought those to destroy him, or to at least weaponize them and use them as power for himself, because he craved that power. And now they were made into a form that he could use. So that's what the Silmarils were, and they're these bright, luminous objects. And they were lost. So I think the Arkenstone, my headcanon, my theories, the Arkenstone in Mount Erebor is the Silmaril, one of the Silmarils. That's my theory.
Okay, so what's your head canon on what a Goblin King should be? Because mine is like,
That one.
no, Scooby Doo.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what I imagined. Like just a taller, shredder goblin.
I don't know. I love I quote it all the time. Anytime I fail at something or I get hurt, like I stub my toe, I'll go, well, that'll do it. I love the casual way he says that.
I mean, because his character is also like you love to hate him.
He's funny.
Yeah, he's great. Like I did not expect this whole like it felt like a Star Wars cantina with all the goblins and stuff for like a couple seconds. It really had that vibe of like this is a whole new environment, you know?
It's more whimsical, very fairy tale-ish. They don't fit into the serious nature of the rest of the world. They're just because they're singing songs. Like because even in the books, that can turn a lot of people off. If you're reading Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit, they're constantly singing all the time or spouting off bits of ancient poetry, like how you might talk about Edgar Allan Poe. They're just casually mentioning some piece of poetry that they remembered and they start singing. Happens almost every page. The goblins are always singing. They're introduced by singing, and I'm kind of disappointed that the movie didn't lean. And like, if you're gonna do The Hobbit, it's gotta be whimsical. It's gotta be fun.
Hmm.
But people expected Lord of the Rings again, and the people who expected that clearly aren't biggest fans they thought they were because they didn't read The Hobbit.
All right.
And even then, the movie takes a lot of liberties to stretch it out. But if it's good material that they're stretching out, then I don't care.
Right.
I just want singing goblins.
Because I really feel like the goblin scene felt like would have been shorter. Like the chase, the going through the different things, even the introduction of the Goblin King, I really felt like it was stretched, but not in a bad way.
Mm,
And I will say, Smeagol's
riddles in the
CGI,
dark.
huh?
The riddles in the dark scene.
His CGI is better. I like him in The Hobbit more than I like him in Lord of the Rings. In terms of the CGI they did, because at least now it doesn't look like there's a blur over his face.
Yeah, I still really enjoy that scene. I think 2003 CGI is peak. Like that scene at Pelennor Fields with the Mumakil charging the Rohirrim on the field. It's just insane. Anytime I see that scene, I'm like, this is 2003, and it looks better than most things done today. Because there's a level of rawness to it that gives it some kind of feeling of grounded reality. Because it's not perfect CGI.
Right.
And just like reality, it's not always perfect. But it's not Scorpion level King or Scorpion King levels of CGI.
CGI. Dude,
No.
I'm sorry. I love the Brandon Fraser mummy movies. Almost all of them.
Oh yeah, even the third one, that
Yeah.
no one talks about. Mostly because it's got Brendan Fraser, and I just miss that guy. And I hate that one of the first major roles he comes back and he's playing some neckbeard fat guy who drinks his own piss all day and is in his room playing World of Warcraft. I'm sure half of that stuff doesn't happen, but like he's such a dignified actor. I wish he'd come back with a role that wasn't that.
Yeah.
Even though he knocks it out of the park, he does phenomenal. It's besides the point. I hope to see more of him. But as far as like people I want to see more of, it's Andy Serkis. We got plenty of Andy Serkis lately. He was in some Marvel movies. He played Alfred and Robert Pattinson's new Batman movie. Uh,
Patterson.
Pattinson, but I don't know.
Edward. Edwards. Edwards Batman movie.
I just want to see more Andy Serkis because he's phenomenal. He's so good, and I think moving forward, he's kind of I don't think he's ever gonna leave the Smeagol role. I don't think you can. It's not like he's gonna be typecasted or anything, but it's almost like with Gunnar Hansen. No matter what role he plays, he will forever be known as that role. I don't think Andy Serkis can play anybody else. They'll be more recognizable and more famous than his role as Smeagol.
I feel so bad for him, man. And because I just push out the beginning of Return of the King, I just push it out of my mind like it doesn't exist, and I have pity for Smeagol.
I just don't like that portrayal. I
No.
don't think it's. I think that scene needed a bit more work. Get back on it, Peter Jackson. It was like you've had plenty of time. Like George Lucas fixes his shit all the time.
Hmm.
At least he can
Quote
admit.
unquote fixes it.
Yeah, I think it makes it worse.
Every new edition is terrible.
Looks like anytime we're gonna record music, it's like the urge to add stuff is always there. Like I wanted to add harmonica. It's not needed, but it's just added fluff. Uh, but there comes a point where adding will take away from what's already present, and that's kind of what George Lucas did with Star Wars. But I don't think it'd be taking anything away to just remove that whole scene and just first off put Andy Serkis back in the booth or make him redo that scene because I don't want to hear that stupid voice he puts on for Gollum while he's still Smeagol. He hasn't changed yet.
Right.
Why would he still talk like that? And anyways, that kind of bothers me. But the riddles in the dark scene, did you get any of the riddles? Like when they were saying them, were you able to figure some of them out?
Some of them, yeah. Time,
That's an easy one. It's an iconic scene.
time and wind. Surprisingly,
Hmm. The one about the white horses on a hill on a red hill. I didn't. When I first heard that, I didn't get that that
ten
was supposed to be teeth.
horses. Yeah.
Yeah. The Riddles in the Dark scene is just iconic. There's a lot of stuff from The Hobbit and from The Lord of the Rings as a whole that they're iconic and they're in popular culture, but you didn't know that's where they were from. Like the popular image of a dragon on a golden horde existed in some capacity before, but not like this. Like our modern understanding of dragons comes from Tolkien. Like what they are, what they do is very much a Tolkien type thing. He didn't invent it, but he brought it back into the popular modern subconscious.
Do you think? You think How I Trained Your Dragon uh,
No,
imitates Tolkien at all?
no, no, I don't. I think Tolkien, being a big fan of like Beowulf and Norse mythology and medieval tales, was really drawing from like past incarnations of dragons. But for the longest time, those that imagery wasn't present in modern literature or in modern storytelling. People didn't really talk about dragons, but to give a personality and almost humanize a dragon was definitely new. The fact that it could talk, the fact that it had a human level intelligence, and the fact that it's voiced by Benedict Cumberbatch will definitely bump it up some points. Holy shit,
I
dude.
didn't know that, dude.
Oh, it's incredible. After this, I got to show you footage of him playing Smaug, like with the motion cap on. Because he didn't just do the voice, he was the physical actor too. So he's on all fours, slithering around like a snake. It's incredible.
That's awesome,
It's incredible. Yeah, Doctor
dude.
Strange.
Smoke is such a good villain. Like a good villain to me, and that might just be my blue collar kind of aspect to it, but it doesn't need to be this big enemy that threatens the world. It just has to be a really good written character and has reason enough to reason with him. You know, like in not to reason as in talk him out of burning you alive, but like his choices he makes sense. You know, like the whole point he was there is because he wanted the gold, but then his justification is that they were too greedy to share with anybody else. You know,
Right.
the greed went to his head. So it's like you have this character that you can understand, a well written character, a good voice, and a like distinctive character, not just a well written character, but a distinctive character.
Understanding one's motives and empathizing with those motives doesn't make that character right.
No,
Like Smaug is 100% a despicable villain,
you're
and you
right.
love him for it because he's talking about how greedy Thorin is as he literally sits
On
on
top of
something that would make Scrooge McDuck jealous.
that was a lot of gold.
It's a lot. Did you consider how, like, the hell was that? Was that a police siren or a banshee?
That was an ambulance.
Oh, okay. So you got hobbits who are already like not even half the size of a normal man. They're smaller than dwarves, even though being smaller than Bomber probably isn't saying that much. The one you can use as a wrecking ball, that one.
With the beard that's braided up into a loop.
Yeah, I love how you can tell all of them apart just based off their beard designs.
Yeah, I've got my hair braided today.
Because I don't even think Biffer, which is perfect timing by the way to do
Yeah,
that, but I don't
yeah.
even think Biffer. I think he speaks in the extended cut when he gets the axe taken out of his head. He speaks, but for the
hmm
most part, like a lot of these dwarves don't even speak. But like they have the size comparison of how small Dildo Haggins is compared to the rest of the Gold Whore. It really shows you how massive it is. But answer me this, riddle me this, Batman. Thranduil didn't get involved when the mountain fell, when the dragon attacked. But his whole goal was to get the diamonds and the Arkenstone. So what he could have done is he could have just gone in, helped the dwarves defeat the dragon because I think they could have. I think they could have, especially if they got the help of Lake Town.
Yeah,
They could have done it.
right.
Because Bard with the black arrow and everything. Like I think it's
Because
possible.
they were located in Dale, right?
Uh,
Instead,
yeah, that's why they
Lake
moved.
Town wasn't.
Well, yeah, that's why they moved to Lake Town.
Yeah.
But they're there. They have the black arrow. That's where they shot it. It was from Dale, and Dale got destroyed. But if you team up with the people who survived, uh, and have Thranduil team up with the dwarves, I think they could have taken out Smaug. But my interesting point here is to say, if he wanted what was in that mountain so bad, this was the perfect opportunity to take advantage of that. And if you help the dwarves kill the dragon, they might feel obligated. They give you some of their hoard.
hmm Yeah.
Honestly, if you were responsible for killing that dragon, they probably would have given you the Arkenstone. Have they not played Elder Scrolls side quests? If you do simple quests for people, they'll just give you shit. Like super powerful pieces of like armor or whatever, or just powerful artifacts. People just give you shit if you help them. If you kill a bunch of rats in their basement, they'll give you stuff.
I gave a kid a goldfish, and she gave me an ingredient I've never heard of. Like
That's a fair
it's
trade.
yeah.
That's a fair trade. See what I mean? It's a fair trade. So if why did Thranduil just help the dwarves? The whole point was to get what was in that mountain. Be an opportunist, like people who loot gas stations in the middle of a hurricane. This is the time to do it. If you're gonna do it, might as well do it now.
Right.
Anyways, I digress.
He's a very good, very well written character, and it towards the end of that movie, it felt like, is this gonna end? Is this the ending? Is this the ending? Because it was like riding right down the line, but they still hadn't finished the dragon, and I wasn't quite sure if like how it played out because I don't know the book. I know there's another movie, but I feel like with this character, it felt right to kill him at the end of Distillation of Smog.
If they added, what they should have done is shaved off about 50 minutes from Battle of Five Armies and added 15 more minutes at the end of Desolation of Smaug. It was just Peter Jackson busting a nut, is what he was doing. He was trying to make these movies as long as humanly possible, stretch out this material as long as he possibly could. And then because you think more of a good thing, well, that's a good thing, right? Well, no, you can spread it too thin. Like I love butter on my biscuits, but if I spread too much butter on it, suddenly there's not enough, is there?
I don't know, biscuit.
There ain't enough biscuit. Damn straight. Too much butter breaks the biscuit. You know what I'm saying?
God, we're fucking southern. God damn it. We were doing. I was doing so good. Like this is the worst episode for me in terms of like
showing you southern.
Yeah.
You're in a southern gothic band. There's a
Too
banjo.
late.
There's a banjo and a mandolin not
That's
5 feet.
my mandolin.
There's a mandolin and a banjo not 5 feet from your personage. Yeah, I think your southern showing.
I can tell you how to get somewhere without telling you how to get somewhere.
That's the most southern thing you can do. I love in I love in oh, it was the Mississippi Kid. Oh, I forget which Leonard Skinner song it is. We just
As
talking
you wear your Leonard Skinner shirt.
as a yeah.
The one we got from the show.
I'm always wearing a kind of Leonard Skinner shirt. It's either the white one or the green one. I interchangeably use them. But there's
Yes.
one where he sings about fucking cornbread. And it's just like to have an entire lyric in a song that has nothing to do with it. Just about cornbread. Like I love that shit. Because it's showing you're Southern in the most obvious way possible. There's no subtlety. They'll literally just start singing about cornbread. I love that.
That might be controversial. I'm not the biggest fan of cornbread.
Are you Southern?
I guess not.
No. No, you're not. Because here's the thing about being Southern. If you're from Georgia, you're a Southerner. If you're from Tennessee, you're a Southerner. If you're from Texas, you are the Southerner. But if you're from Florida, you're not Southern.
Oh.
If you're from, you can be south of the equator. If you ain't from the American South, you ain't Southern.
No.
Mm-mm. No, sir. That's just, I love how we gatekeep the term. Because it has nothing to do with
most southern state doesn't get to be part of the South.
No, it's literally the most southern state, but because it doesn't follow what other southern states do,
It doesn't follow anybody, man.
but which is crazy because it's an incredibly red state.
Yeah.
And like when you think of the South, you think red,
hmm
but Georgia's purple. It's a pretty good mixture of both blue and red, but then you have a state that's almost all red, like Texas, but it's not considered part of the South. It's below the Mason-Dixon, and it's above the equator, but it ain't part of the American South. We don't associate with the Gator people, but we like the Louisianan people, so I don't know. Those Creoles.
We gotta pick our cater people correctly.
Mm-hmm. What's better? Who makes better food? The Creole
Yeah.
or the Floridians? Of course, it's the Creole. I would say Floridian gator bites are pretty damn good.
What's Floridian seasoning?
I don't know. It's not Creole. Actually, they probably just use Creole seasoning.
Honestly, yeah, they
Cajun
probably
seasoning.
they probably just use Caucasian food and just call it Floridian.
Yeah, but they just kill their own gators instead of importing them from Louisiana because they got their own problems.
We got gators too.
Yeah, I shot one with a fucking shotgun point blank in the head and nothing happened. Nothing. Slug, listen to me.
Oh my god.
I was fishing in a pond where there's not supposed to be gators. And I hooked a gator and was reeling him in and he fought me, broke the line. Then we went to go fetch a shotgun and put the shotgun to the gator's head, pulled the trigger not an inch away, and it didn't flinch.
He said, "Fuck your bullets, dog."
He didn't even flinch. Shot with a shotgun point blank range.
No mortal man can pierce the hide.
It's Smaug. I need to get the black arrow. I needed the black arrow. I needed Bard there. Then maybe there's
Bard
some
wasn't
opening.
there for you.
No, just like Thranduil wasn't there for Thorin and Thrain. Dude, Thrain kind of lost it.
Dude, it was so sad because it's like Gandalf's like, "No, you're not gonna die," and then from what we learned, most of the time he's about 75% accurate with when he says you're gonna be fine.
because
I didn't.
he's responsible for them being fine.
Yeah, and a part of me was like, okay, yeah, he's gonna reunite with his son, and it's gonna be cool, and then immediately gets literally sucked into the darkness. Quite literally gets sucked into Sauron.
Oh, what'd you think about Sauron's presentation here?
It works. I think it really works. Is that he's not formed the all-seeing eye really yet, and it's just him. And I never like really thought about it. Of course, the cornea would be Sauron himself as
Mm,
the person, you know.
that's such a cool effect, the
Yeah,
visual of that.
and the illusion, and then finding out of the Lich King's return, or the Witch King, and all the other men that were killed by the ring. Am I right that they were all the
Oh,
men king?
the kings, the nine Nazgul,
Mm-hmm.
the nine fallen kings of man. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, like the alluding to that, and then literally showing us a really cool battle with them before, like, because like we know the one we see killed is the Witch King, right?
Hmm.
So it's just like all those kind of dynamics with that the castle bits are just all good.
Oh, I loved everything because it's the Avengers of Middle. It's like the fantasy Avengers
Yeah.
having Saruman, uh, not Elendil, excuse me, Elrond, who was also the guy Hugo Weaving was also in the Matrix. I love Hugo Weaving. He just eats up the screen anytime he's on. So you got Elrond, you got Gandalf, Galadriel, and Saruman. That's just the team.
Yeah.
Those are the homies right there. They've lived longer than anyone else in the entire world, and having them show up and do battle with immortal spirits and Sauron himself in an abandoned castle.
It seems like a very that seems like the secret quest. Because if the world knew that Sauron was on the rise, people would freak. Like civilization would fucking crumble.
Are you saying Sauron's an SCP?
Yes, they let you win, but they won't let you post anything. Maybe with this idea, they'll let you post something.
Yeah, we'll talk more about that at a later date. Just kind of sprinkling hints and bits there. Like I think I mentioned Southern Casket last episode without officially mentioning it.
Yeah,
It was just like,
we were literally talking about it in depth without even saying that it was Southern
but
Casket.
if people were paying attention, they might pick up what we were putting down. But it was like we didn't say exactly what it was. It was like we're working on a project, and then proceed to talk about it at great length and detail, and people would come away still not knowing what the hell we're talking about.
Right.
So I kind of like sprinkling allusions to what we're gonna be doing next, but I feel like this is less subtle. I'm just like, is Sauron an SCP? Find out next week on Dragon Ball Z. Yeah, the fight with the Avengers at Dol Guldur, super neat, super cool. I wish the rabbits were jackalopes. The Radagast was riding around on.
Yeah. At first, I thought he was tiny, like a tinier wizard. But then when he showed up and was almost taller than Gandalf, I was like, those are some big fucking rabbits.
Exactly. All the animals are super. Oh, what'd you think about Bjorn, the bear?
I love this character. There's so much. At first, I was like really nervous because if it was because it's gonna be another villain. But then when he just started talking, it's like, no, he's not the villain. He's violent because he escaped trauma. He saw his whole clan get wiped out, and he escaped from imprisonment. So of course he's gonna be sketchy of literally everybody.
He never comes across as a threat to them. But he's almost like Saruman. Like when he's on screen, you're like, this guy can fuck people up.
Hmm.
If this guy wanted to kill all of them, with the exception of maybe Gandalf, he probably could.
I think he would probably get through a couple dwarfs before Gandalf stopped them. I
Probably.
think they're like if he decided to kill them, like even Gandalf was like, I'm not sure. I'm not sure how this is gonna go.
I don't want to find out.
Are you nervous? No, nonsense. And he's freaking the fuck out because they're not because it's so funny. The little tidbit was, so what's the signal? And then he's just like, oh, you got a circus of dwarves in there, but interesting how he did not freak the fuck out because I think on a level of understanding him, I really think there's a level of him understanding this particular party. Clearly, something is going on. Gandalf is walking around with fucking 13 dwarves and a 14th halfling that I didn't even know the hobbits were a thing, right? Something's going on, all right? So maybe, I think if I really want to think for the best of Middle Earth, I shouldn't just slaughter all of these dwarves.
Hmm.
Let
Good
me weed it
analysis.
out. Let me weed out some answers before I decide.
Oh, how Treebeard immediately wanted to kill Merry and Pippin because he thought they were orcs.
Yes.
It's like, you're some strange orcs. I don't care. I'm gonna kill you anyways. Yeah, Bjorn's great. I I kind of skipping ahead with this one, but the Battle of the Five Armies there toward the end were like
Yeah,
it's like Smash
that's
Bros. Where
pretty.
everyone shows up. It kind of feels like the end of Rise of Skywalker a little bit. You know, it came out way before, but you know what I mean? Where it's like, everyone's here to save the day for the final battle. It makes more sense here
Mhm.
versus where did everyone come from? There was nobody. Now all of a sudden the entire galaxy is rallied behind. I don't buy it.
No,
I buy that Bjorn would have been persuaded because everyone at this time is following and tracking the progress of these dwarfs. It's probably the most interesting thing that's happened in Middle Earth for years. It's probably the most interesting thing that's happened since the dwarves were driven from their kingdom. So it makes sense that everyone would be like, it's like sitting by the campfire listening to the radio. What are they going to do? Everyone's so curious what the dwarves are doing. So it makes sense that Bjorn will probably be tracking the.
says all right. Let's give him some hope.
Yeah, he's like, I get nothing else, and that's kind
I
of the
got
thing.
nothing else to do.
Everyone who's there at the battle, other than say the elves or really anybody else, it really comes down to everyone's lost everything. The men of Dale, who would go to Lake Towns, like everyone, the dwarves, everyone lost everything. It's practically a suicide mission to even go there. But the whole point of the story is to try, knowing how futile it might be. They had zero plans. When they got to the mountain, it kind of felt like Plankton with, I really didn't think I'd get this far.
Right? Yeah.
They had no idea they'd make it even that far. So
No,
when they got there, they had no plan.
they had heart.
That's all the dwarves really have. A very cholesterol filled heart on the verge of collapse, but they have heart. Bomber in particular. I really relate to him. That's me.
Bomber. I really like the one that had first watch when actually fell into before they fell into Goblin Town. The
Yes,
one with the Fargo hat.
Beaufort.
I like Bofer a
He's
lot.
my favorite.
Both of these nuts. I'm sorry.
Shut up. Sometimes you just have to go for it, just like the dwarves. You're like, I don't know the outcome of this, but I'm gonna do it anyways.
Let's find out together.
Live on the podcast. No whole bar.
Yo, Bofa, I like.
Biffer, Bomber, Bofer, Gloin, Oin, Keely, Feely, Thorin, Ballin. Okay, you know what? Ballin was Ballin. I'm gonna say Ballin was my favorite, then followed by Bofer. Uh, I'm not gonna rank. I'm not gonna do a tier list of the dwarves. They're all great.
It's
They're all. They're,
Kiki, Bofa, and Barlin. Those were the best.
those are the only ones you need. That's the homies right there. So yeah, I think if we're gonna do a tier list, it's S and A. There's S characters, there's A characters.
Yeah, there's no bad characters in any of these movies except okay, well, Alfred sucks. That's about
Who?
it.
Who?
Who?
Exactly. Is there an Al in here? No. It's just Alfred. Get him the fuck out of here.
It's they were so fun, man. They were. I actually watched Desolation of Smog back to back with the Five Armies.
Did it flow really nicely?
Yeah, honestly, yeah. I think that big jump to just outside where they hear the rumbling and the dragon is approaching is so good. I kind of wish in a way. I mean, it's lame, but in concept, I think it would have been the coolest fucking thing ever. Is he actually got cemented in gold, and like there is an outline of a dragon.
It would have been poetic,
Yeah.
very ironic that he spent all this time with the Gold Horde and they finally became part of the Gold.
Hmm.
Yeah, take it up with Tolkien. I would say to go with Christopher, but now there's really no one to take it up with. No one that matters. Everyone else is bastardizing his legacy. Except Peter Jackson with the Five Armies. A cinematic masterpiece for the ages. I don't think they should have killed Smaug in like the first 10 minutes of the movie. It
Hmm.
kind of kills the pacing because now it's like, well, this is the whole point of the story. The whole Battle of the Armies was kind of like a side thing going on. The main point of the plot, I'm going to say something that doesn't pertain to you, but in Game of Thrones, the main threat that everyone was facing wasn't the vies for the throne itself, even though the political machinations were definitely what made the show interesting. The overall arcing threat was the Night King and all the whites, which are these pretty much undead. This army of the undead. He's pretty much a Lich King, bringing back the undead to take over the entire world and shroud it in cold and dark. But a major portion of the show's interest or intrigue comes from what they're doing for the throne. But the whole point of the show is that the throne doesn't matter because there's a bigger looming threat on the horizon that everyone should unite to fight against. And that's kind of where the differences with George R. R. Martin and Lord of the Rings is because other than tax policy, one focuses on people teaming up for the greater good, and one focuses on how people can't work together and fall apart when there is a larger threat. But I think having this comparison, people didn't care about season 8 of Game of Thrones anymore because the main threat of the White Walkers and the Night King was resolved at the very beginning of the season. This huge looming threat that everything had been leading to suddenly got resolved in a single episode that was so dark nobody could see it, and they had to brighten their TV screens. That's besides the point. I know it's called The Long Night, but they didn't have to make the episode that damn dark. Uh, but you have that whole story arc happen, and it gets resolved early in the 8th season. But there's still multiple episodes left about the throne. But the whole point of the show was to say that the throne didn't matter.
It's to make another comparison. I really see the either the dwarves, you could say the elves, and at least in this situation, it's the same as in A Return of the King, the dead army coming to serve as an extra army,
Mm,
and then even to double down, they're both about a king or someone who's heir to the throne achieving the throne.
right.
There's a lot of like
Well, there's a
the
lot of
Hobbit did it
parallels.
better.
There's a
The
lot
Hobbit
of
did it better.
there's that's I ain't touching that one.
The Hobbit did it better.
I would not touch that one. I would touch the Grinch with a 10-foot pole before I touch that with a 30-foot pole. So here's how I'm gonna tie this all in.
It saved the podcast
Let's
after
say
that terrible take.
after a terrible take, let me rebuild what you just burnt down.
Like smoke.
So yeah, like
Smoke burnt down.
like Smaug. But uh, going off of that, it's that the ending of the Five Armies means significantly less when the main threat that everything had been building up to was gone.
Right.
Smaug was the point. And some people may argue that and say, hell, Tolkien might be writhing in his grave right now and say I'm wrong about my interpretation, but I feel like the whole point of, at least in a movie format, was that Smaug was the main antagonist. Now that he's gone, everything else just seems trite, seems less meaningful, everything that comes after. And then to stretch that out, which is essentially just like 10 or 5 pages of the book, into, was it 2.5 hour long movie?
Yeah.
It's significantly shorter than the other ones. And I think some of the battle scenes in the extended cut are definitely kind of goofy, cartoonish.
A little bit, but it was fun.
It's fun, but it's a bit goofy. But that's the dwarves for you. They're just silly.
Yeah. I like the combat or in the character dynamic between Bog and or is it Boz? Org?
Who are you?
The white orc.
Oh, Azog
Azog.
and his son. The one's got like the tire tread looking damn thing in his head.
Yeah. Azog and Thorin's character dynamic, the rivalry, the hatred for each other. It's so well written.
I love vengeance stories. Stories of
Yeah,
like two people who would cross oceans and mountains just to reach each other. That's why you have to watch The Revenant, but that's besides the point. Yeah, Thorin's whole character in the third movie is really good. I like what they do with him. Him going mad because of the gold and the power and the need to be king, because that's what all this was about to him. And now that he achieved it, he was so obsessed with maintaining it, something that he already lost. It's like going it's like going a month without smoking and then finally get another cigarette. You're gonna hold on to that damn thing for dear life. That's kind of sure, that's what it's like.
sure.
Sure, kid, why not? But that's how I
Let me
interpret
compare this story from a children's book to nicotine withdrawal.
it. Yes. That's kind of what it's like, though. It's he had something, he lost it, now that he has it again, he doesn't want to let it go, and he's obsessed with keeping it. And the mere thought of losing it again kind of makes him go crazy.
I don't know. I found myself counting just to see, because for the longest time there was only two, like one army, and I didn't know if we were counting the village people as one army or included in the elfish army, because they tag teamed, right?
Mm.
And then the dwarves showed up,
Dane Ironfoot the second.
and then the orcs showed up, and then I was like, yeah, okay, so now we're at four if we're counting that. And where the fuck is the last one? And then it immediately cuts to Legolas over in what Hagendor,
The hell? What are you trying to say?
where Legolas's mom died.
It wasn't Angband. It was one of those
I
fortress.
told you to take notes.
Oh, characters. You didn't see locations. I'll fit it in. Don't worry, I'll edit it.
Yeah, in post, you'll just, hey guys, the name of the city was blank.
Yeah, I'll do that. I thought it was. Oh, sorry for you.
I think I'm close. I'm enunciating the right parts. It's just not the right word.
So you're gonna say it's Hagenborg,
I'm gonna say it's Hagenbor.
and we'll see how wrong you are at the end of the episode.
Hagendor. Hagendor. Anyway, immediately cuts to Legolas at this location where another orc army is released. Okay, there it is. There's the fifth army.
Yeah, that's how I was too watching it. It was like, okay, one, two, three. It's called Battle of the Five Armies, so you're expecting there to be five.
Right, and I
For,
think it's a little cheap to call the orcs two armies.
yeah,
But
or what you could do is you could really cheat and really stretch the term of army and say that the dwarves in the mountain are a second army.
yeah, but then that's just as cheap as the orcs because there's two dwarf armies then.
Yeah, it's cheap either way.
I kind of like at the same time I was thinking maybe like in the idea of man supporting man, maybe like Rohan or any of the other men kingdoms coming to help him out. But at the same time, that's the same vein. It's like, what other race do we not have? We got elves, dwarves, orcs, man. What else is there? The fucking wizard was like, if all six of the wizards, like, all was it five or
Just
six?
five.
Just all the wizards showed up. Okay, I would consider that an army. An
Yeah,
army of wizards.
that's a nuclear warhead
Yeah.
aimed at the mountain if you have five wizards.
I love, like, is it intentionally written that way, or did Tolkien not know exactly what to do with the blue wizards? So that Gandalf is like, I don't even remember their names.
It could have been something in the same vein as he made so much world building and spent a majority of his life focused on crafting such an intricate mythology that he just didn't have time for it. It could have been just that simple. He died before he can explain it.
That's fucking sad, man.
Like I don't know if that's true. Maybe he just wanted to leave it ambiguous for unknown reasons. But
Um,
we know they went to the east, like in Harad, and where the the eastern people came from. Like the Haradrim in general. We know they went kind of in that general direction, but we don't really know what they did. But we could inference and make assumptions that maybe they were able to stop the spread of darkness for thousands of years until something happened to them. They could have been incredibly successful, but their songs will never be sung.
so how many races are in Middle Earth that are considered like if
Sentient?
Yeah, sentient. Other than like not including the tree people. Well, if the tree people showed up, bam, but
Was
they
it
have no reason. They had no reason to show up.
their whole thing was they didn't want to get involved.
Right, with anything. Um, unless you're burning down their fucking backyard, then
The pride's a stand your ground state in Middle Earth. You come in Fangorn Forest, you get fucked up, boy.
scorched earth, motherfucker. I will massacre you.
within 5 minutes of oh my god, the Lorax speaks for the trees. Within 5 minutes of their forest being cut down, Isengard ceased to exist. You don't fuck with the trees, man. It's like The Happening with Mark Wahlberg. You don't fuck with the trees, man. I thought that was a good movie, but whatever.
But like how I would say like orcs in Elder Scrolls are actual to me are like actual races.
Mm-hmm.
So what races are there in Middle Earth?
Like you have Bjorn, who's in a special case. There's really no one else like him. I mean, it's a plot point.
Oh, the hobbits. I fucking forgot about the
But
hobbits.
yeah, you have
But they don't
hobbits,
care.
but
They don't.
everyone forgets about the
The
hobbits.
hobbits don't even know that this is going on.
In the
So
Shire, no, it's like when that's the best part. Anytime the hobbits go back to the Shire, either in Lord of the Rings or Bilbo doing it in this one, when he goes back home, nobody cares. Nobody knows any. Like the rest of the world knew what the dwarves were doing. This was international news. This was making headlines. They don't have, despite the fact, I would say the Shire is probably the most advanced culture in Middle Earth. Like you see the clothes they wear, and the like. I think they're maybe not technologically the most advanced, but culturally, I'd say they're living in the Renaissance era while everyone else is living in the Dark Ages.
yeah,
But
yeah.
the Shire's in a completely different
They
time
don't have an
period.
army.
They don't.
For me, that really shows the level of what I see as a good future. Is if nobody has armies, there's no war. But I know that's a very idealistic than realistic point of view, but that's what I subscribe to, and I really think that applies to the Shire. That they're just so culturally advanced that they don't need an army because they don't see war happening.
Here's something that happened in the book that did not happen in the movies, and a lot of people would say this is for the best. In the book, when Sam and Frodo and Merry and Pippin, when they get back, the Shire's destroyed in the book. It gets burned down by Saruman because he doesn't die at Isengard. There's a thing called the scourging of the Shire, in which all the hobbits have to fight back against insurmountable odds, and they win. But the whole point of that story was to show that everyone's affected. You don't just get to hide away in your little bubble across the world and not be affected by world events. It's to show that everyone's affected by this. You don't just get to hide away. And ultimately, everything worked out. Like the Shire got rebuilt and everything was fine. But like I think Sam even became a mayor of Hobbiton. But I could be getting that wrong. But they all had like special jobs that they did. Everyone except Frodo, this PTSD, had to go to the Grey Havens. But everyone else, like they became prominent figures in their community, and the Shire was fine. But the Shire got burned down beforehand, and that just doesn't happen in the movie, and it's probably for the best. What do you think?
Now knowing that, I kind of wanted to see that because I think it would have added even more to Sam's character than
Oh,
just not just getting a happy ending, but seeing how he made his own happy ending.
hmm
You know, because it's all the time you can just write a happy ending for somebody, but that doesn't mean that it feels right or earned. You know, I think Sam has really earned his spot to be given us a happy ending because he literally carried Frodo's ass up the mountain because he was like, I ain't come this far for you to keel over on the side of the mountain.
if you die, I die.
Yeah, I will throw your ass into the fire if you don't.
I want
Well,
to see that ending before Gollum even got there. Gollum gets up there. He's like, "Where's the ring?" It's in the fire with Frodo. You want to go after it too?
he would probably not even hesitate to just throw his ass into
Oh,
the fire.
he was. Like we love Sam. He's so sweet. He would 100%
At
cast
that
Smeagol
point,
into the
yes,
fire.
but at the same time, fuck yes. You go, Sam. You go. Burn his ass.
Oh my god.
And then it would be even a sadder fucking ending with the three eagles showing up and only Sam is taken.
Is that the best ending though?
I mean, Frodo doesn't have to deal with the PTSD.
It's true. That's true. But yeah, it's that. Okay, hold on. I got thrown off so bad. What was I gonna say? So bad by Sam. We were gushing about Sam, and it threw us off. Anyways, the scourging of the Shire. How Tolkien, yeah, quintessentially writes what we would consider generic fantasy today, but at the time, that's really all there was. But to us now in the modern day, it's all goody two shoes, saving the day, and happy endings and
Save the
whatnot.
princess.
So yeah, just classic fairy tale stuff. But it's not.
It's not.
There's never a full happy ending, except for Sam.
Oh yeah, for
But
sure.
but very rarely does everything just go back hunky dory. Everything's peachy clean and everything's fine.
Yeah, Frodo went into protective services. I
So
mean,
was he a witness protection?
yes, he went with this protection, man. He couldn't be released to the general public of the Shire.
That's one way to look at it. Scratch the whole PTSD theory. Welcome to that.
or fuck my entire theory about how the gods crafted the hobbits precisely for a reason. No, it says he had to go into witness protection because he's a threat to himself and the general public.
Is he like Flippy from Happy Tree Friends?
Yes,
He's seen so
yes.
much war.
He gets into the fight like he thinks like it's like he's sitting down at the table with his wife, right? And his wife and kids, his two daughters are there, and they're just eating and drinking mead. And she says something that triggers him, and he's like, "You're after my ring," and just start grabbing her by the neck.
Because Bilbo never got over it either. It was
Yeah,
constantly just like anytime he saw a piece of jewelry,
right.
goes off the deep end.
Who took my ring? He starts strangling his wife in front of the
I
kids.
don't know why this popped in my head, but Butters during that episode of South Park with the VR. Remember that?
Yes,
He
he
has
kicks his dad in the balls.
He's got the VR on because he thinks nothing's real and nothing matters. I can see Frodo being like, he thinks he still has the ring on, so he thinks he's invisible and completely immune to consequences. It's like the Invisible Man just starts going off.
Mhm.
He is the reason the Shire was scourged. He had to remove himself from the equation.
He's in Vietnam flashbacks to fighting Gollum barehandedly. His guerrilla warfare, he just all hands, never like a dagger or like taking a pan and hitting him like Sam did with the spider. No, it's just guerrilla warfare, digging his hands into his wife's neck, just like I will kill you, Gollum.
Proceeds to eat fish raw, and everyone looks at him weird.
Hey, we're going fishing, Sam. Okay. He reels it in. He's like, Sam's like, oh, it's a nice fish. I can't wait to cook it. And Frodo's already just like eating the fish.
With no potatoes. Mash them. How's it fucking go? It's mash them, stash them, throw them in a stew. That's not the line.
No,
That's not the
I
line.
was just gonna let you ride it out.
I was gonna figure it out, but I didn't. I didn't figure it out. I think listening to the last episode, I'm like, everyone say your favorite Lord of the Rings quote, and I proceed to say it completely wrong.
Yeah.
I'm committing to it. I'm not changing anything. That's the line. Correct me. Actually, if you want to correct me, how about you guys leave a comment on this on Instagram and let us know how stupid I am. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's good for the algorithm.
Good traction.
Yeah, I'm gonna boost some posts in the future. I, I'm willing to spend money on getting this out there. I think this is good quality content.
As you drink my Jack Daniels.
Our Jack Daniels.
Yeah, we share it like we share the ring.
The whole episode we kept fighting back and forth.
Over the
It
ring.
wasn't a skit or anything. It
No,
was just,
it was
we,
just happened.
we just kept wanting control of the ring for some reason.
I love how Gandalf just knew the whole time he had it.
Oh yeah, like he knew in the book when he leaves, he's gone for 17 years. They try to figure out what the ring is. In the movie, it's not quite portrayed like that long, but it's just funny to think that he's gone for 17 years because he doesn't know what it is. But in the movies, you can kind of he has an idea.
Right.
Like he always kind of knew what it was, and I'm just gonna let him have it. Just kind of just out of curiosity, maybe just to see, like almost like he had a theory about the hobbits, and he just wanted them proven. So he's like, I'm gonna let him keep the ring just to see what happens. I don't know, maybe.
It makes me appreciate the scenes with Bilbo more in Lord of the Rings.
The few that we have,
Yeah.
because now he's a full-fledged character that you care about.
Old man.
It's crazy how Martin Freeman's portrayal just seamlessly flows into Lord of the Rings. It feels like the same exact character.
Hmm.
There's nothing about like these are two different people. I'm like I feel like this is the same person, just 60 years later.
When I noticed, like, obviously I knew that it was going to be the same actor, but, like, it was a different. But once when, like, there's this, like, I guess curtain everybody puts on when somebody is recasted that you're just like, it's not going to be as good. The delivery, something, something, you know, something's going to be the issue. But no, with his performance as Bilbo, it's perfect. Like, I couldn't ask for a better dildo.
I guess he couldn't ask for a better dildo. So I think we should wrap up our complete thoughts here on The Hobbit.
It's better than Lord of the Rings.
It's cozier. It's got lower stakes. I think it's enjoyable if you just want to go on a roller coaster ride without much thought. Not to say it's not a thinking man's movie in the same vein as Lord of the Rings, but I mean it's not. It's just fun. It's just more fun. It's got more comedy, more. It's very lighthearted, and like I said, lower stakes that you don't have to get entirely invested in.
You want to rank them?
Are we ranking all six movies?
Yes.
Okay. You go ahead. I need to think about it.
My S tier is The Two Towers. My A tier is Return of the King and Unexpected Journey. B is Desolation of Smog, and then the five armies, and then C is Fellowship of the Ring.
S tier for me: Fellowship, Return, Unexpected Journey. A tier is Two Towers and Desolation of Smaug, and B tier is going to be Battle of the Five Armies.
Do I have Battle of the Five Armies too high?
For everyone else on this planet, yeah.
Yeah, I just enjoy it more than Fellowship of the
Just
Ring.
don't walk into some seedy part of town. Like, don't walk into a biker bar and say the Battle of the Five Armies is my one of my favorites, if not my single favorite. Don't ever say that. I know you wouldn't because it's not, but like, don't ever give
Because
it
it's
credit.
not. We can both agree that it's
It's
not.
not, but like, don't give it credit. Like, don't walk into any place with a number of people and just shout out loud, "I like Battle of the Five Armies." Do you want to be crucified? You want to be burned at the
I
stake?
saw what happened.
Don't
We
go.
on our Easter episode. I saw what happened to the man.
You don't want that to happen to you.
No.
That was a good bit. Guys, we're not going to end off here quite yet, but we are going to transition into talking more about our own personal projects. So if you'd like to stay and talk about that with us, we'd like to keep you around. Slug, you have any finer points?
I think I want to get across kind of our influence on
Mm.
like why we kind of want to do this. Like, if there's anybody that really like was like, yes, that's his vibe and everything. It's just like what we want to do, you know. Obviously, with our little twist with your rockabilly and my doom.
There's definitely a contrast that I'm
Yeah,
very excited to explore.
yeah,
I love juxtaposition, period. I love when two completely divergent things complement each other. Because where one thing is weak, another might be strong. Where one thing is strong, another might be weak. Stuff like that. They fill gaps. And considering what our influences are, they're very different, but also kind of fill the same niche.
right.
It's like that's what I'm saying. Like we're always on the same page, but it's just like a different book. So go ahead first.
Leadbelly would probably, in terms of the blues aspect, is my favorite blues musician. Only second to maybe Big Joe Williams with his. I think my favorite blues song, "Baby Please Don't Go." His version of it to me is just like the pinnacle of blues, and everything makes up with every. Like the song itself makes up why I like. It tells the story of why I love blues music. It's just like how the writing is, the structure of the riff, and him playing a 12-string guitar just adds more emphasis to his notes. You know, the riffs is just so good. But with Leadbelly, I feel like his macabre lyricism and such an early time in music, relative to us,
Right.
because music's been around for fucking forever. As soon as somebody could put a string on
No,
something,
just cavemen banging rocks together,
yeah.
or the Mesopotamian chants, like the Epic of Gilgamesh. That's technically music.
All right. But Lead Belly is just so punk rock, and for somebody who was so disconnected from that era. And I don't really think he lived into the era where
Mm-mm.
rock and roll was shifting to more punk rock when how hard rock was getting picked up as the mainstream kind of music.
People understate the influence of not just Leadbelly but blues in general as one of the foundations, one of the core tenets of what a lot of genres of music are spawned from.
We wouldn't have blues, or excuse me, we wouldn't have metal music without blues.
No, it's essential. Like if you really want to, like if you like music, like even just passively so, if you have an interest in music, you can't do yourself a disservice and not go back in time and listen to the roots. Listen to where a lot of your favorite genres of music came from. It comes from blues. Blues is quintessential to a musical experience.
One of the few only American style
There's
musics.
not many. You got blues and you got jazz. And like yeah, you could say a lot of Appalachian folk music is very unique unto
Americana,
itself.
but I think a lot of it has timeline's messy. But I think we can solidly say blues and jazz.
It's the most concrete because a lot of them there's influences from other places like jazz. That's all Harlem.
Hmm.
You know, these places are in a bubble. They form independently of outside influence.
Like even with blues music, the Chicago scene is so much different from the South scene.
Hmm.
It's
Speaking of Leadbelly, his rendition of Midnight Special, despite how obsessive I am over CCR, oh yeah, I love Creedence. Don't get me wrong; they're one of my favorite all-time bands. But even then, their cover of Midnight Special, as good as it is, it's not Leadbelly.
That's not Led Belly,
It's
no.
just not Leadbelly. Leadbelly, I would cite as an influence as well. Just that era of blues and Leadbelly being such an interesting figure, like
He
outside of his music.
fucking killed a man and was able to get a pardon because he was good at music.
Imagine.
He did it twice. He killed two people.
That's why I love the movie Brother Where Art Thou, even though he's not a part of that. But that whole time period in music history, like just pure Americana musical history, people traveling around making deals with the devil at crossroads.
Nobody's buying.
No,
I've been offering it. Nobody's buying.
I'll do it. I'll buy it from you.
But
You gotta
yeah,
buy me some
Robert
more Jack
Johnson.
first.
So you can get ready to negotiate.
Mm-hmm. Damn straight.
But yeah, Robert Johnson in it. I mean, yeah, again, even with Robert Johnson, I love his trilogy of of his selling his soul to the devil. All three of those songs are just phenomenal. But I would say Lead Belly. I would say Amigo the Devil.
Mm,
More modern folk music, but in
same
terms,
flair.
yeah, it has that kind of it has the real roots with like actual organic instruments that really helps. He's a phenomenal banjo player, and it also really helps that he writes his lyrics are about shit that I like, horror,
Dark,
y-
macabre.
yeah, and introspective, and has a dark psychology of the mind.
Yeah, like no matter what evil he's perpetrating, no matter what crimes he's doing, no matter if he's burying his wife or whatever, the Edgar Allan Poe style murder, it's like you said, dark psychology. There's always this: why am I doing this? What am I getting out of this? It's not just evil for the sake of evil. It's based in human emotion, based in introspection, based in real life choices that people wish they could make. And through the lens of dark music, you can explore those routes of why would somebody do this? Why would I want to do this? And what do I gain from it? And how does it make me feel?
Also, from the perspective of um, In Another Man's Grave, probably my favorite Amiga the Devil song. Excuse me. I like the 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 metaphor there, and how I interpret it was he doesn't want to die the same man he was when he was born. He wants to do something with his life to be different from just being another person. And and really, like before that, I didn't really understand that feeling until I heard that song, and I'm like, that's how I feel, and why I want to push so hard for music and everything that I'm doing. It's because it's just I'm just gonna be another name, another name in the government's list of social securities, instead of just being different from who I was when I was born.
Like a wasp, you want to be somebody.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that song is a definite big influence, considering that it was one of the first hair metal bands I listened to, and also that the singer was a bass player. I mean, they didn't finish that way, but they started with Blackie Lawless on bass, and he was the vocalist. But Amigo the Devil's lyricism again, and the darkness, the macabre of not even just the lyrics, but how the riffs are structured and the sound of it. And I just love when that swampy Cajun kind of, like, almost jazz, but also folk. It's like this like really nice blend of just Cajun culture in music form, and it's something that I would absolutely love to try to mimic, or even have a one percentage of how good that "Quiet as a Rat" song sounds like by Amigo the Devil. But then there's also Tican uh, City Street Thieves that is so good.
This is the influence of me as well.
Their song "Whiskey" is so good because it's so relatable. Like for a lot of people, sometimes they need an escape, and like yes, it's not the healthiest escape, but it's the most human escape is inside of a bottle.
Hmm.
Right. Yeah. The tongue in cheek of their music is kind of like how I want to approach it too. That it's like, yeah, we're doing music, but we're here to have fun. You know, we're not here to tell. Like, I mean, they have some really good storytelling, but at the same time, they have songs that there aren't typically a serious topic. They're just talking, like their song "Down by the Bay," where they're just coming up with rhymes and everything, and then derails into just potty humor, and it's fucking
Oh, like this
funny.
podcast?
Yeah, yeah, essentially, yeah. But there's also, I think, more for the Southern Gothic style. I really dig Devil Makes Three and their cover of St. James Infirmary, or Old Number Seven we have on the desk here.
Hmm.
Or even the Plank is another one. Just it's two guitar players and an upright bass player. That's it. That's the band,
That's all
and
you need.
yeah, and it's so good. It's those are the primary influences I'm coming into this with to try to make an attempt at a genre of music I like.
Well said. Is it my turn?
Hmm.
Okay, mine's not going to be as comprehensive as yours, but with music, this translates to any creative art. People, I gotta make this pretentious. Don't worry. With any creative art, it's about encapsulating something to its fullest form. With music, it's about encapsulating an atmosphere to not just create one, but to maintain it and to make other people feel it. Like when you write something, whether it be lyrics or for a novel, if you're writing a book, it's like you have to paint a picture for people. You have to set them in the scene. And one of my favorite places to be mentally is in the bayou.
Hmm.
I love New Orleans culture, Cajun culture, just like you. And this is like no matter how different we are, there's still these rudimentary loves that we can find common ground on. I love Cajun culture, and one of my favorite albums of all time is Exile on Main Street by the Rolling Stones. I've re-listened to it so many times. It's one, and I don't physically have it. Surprisingly, I have all these other vinyls, but I don't have that one. I
Your
love.
mom's got a really nice vinyl collection.
Yeah, I mine has officially surpassed hers though, as far as size.
Yeah,
I officially have more now
but she
somehow.
has original copies,
Well, yeah, that
dude.
definitely gives her a
Def
boost.
Leppard, Wasp, Motley Crue. A shout out the Devil record from the '80s. Like, come on, man.
Also got Pep Benatar.
You know.
No, you don't like Pep
You
Benatar?
also have Meatloaf, right?
No, I don't have Meatloaf.
Mm.
It's crazy. It's all these people I love that like. I would say Meatloaf is an influence, but not in how I play, but just like the style, the energy and the stage performance, the stage presence that I would like to cultivate is in Meatloaf, but it's not the kind of music I play necessarily. But I want to encapsulate the same atmosphere that stuff like Exile on Main Street does, like a smoky bar, uh, just Cajun food, Cajun music, just the atmosphere that those create in someone's mind. That's the kind of music I want to make. And as far as influences go, Woody Guthrie, as far as how raw and it's like that's why I'm saying I love the era of like 30s to 50s music. Because a lot of these people aren't recording in studios; they're not recording in recording booths. They have very shoddy equipment. They're not tied to any record labels. They're musicians on the road, simply making music when they can. Just pennies here and there. They're just trying to scratch on by. They're starving artists essentially, just on the road. And that kind of attitude of just traveling around trying to make art, trying to make a living, and in this economy, especially after the Great Depression, you see a lot of people who gravitate toward different art forms. A lot of people become writers. A lot of people become painters. You see new styles and influences come out that period because people are desperate, and out of desperation comes innovation, and and the innovation that comes from at least for music out of the Great Depression is the working class. You see blue collared folks singing about stuff people have always really sung about, but disparity in classism. They talk about not getting along with their bosses or just like stuff that at the time was really relatable to people or how even with Leadbelly talking about the stuff he was dealing with, very human problems that at the time weren't really talked about. And that goes even to books. People wanted books that were idealistic, not realistic. They wanted romanticism. They didn't want a grounded story with real consequences. That's not what people were looking for then. But it became apparent to people that no, we don't live in an idealistic world. That bad things are going to happen. Let's sing about it, and maybe we can feel a bit better afterwards about the suffering that has been incurred upon us. And I like that kind of music. So Woody Guthrie with a sticker that says "This machine kills fascists" on his guitar, traveling around America, talking about down with fascism and it's nowadays we throw a word around fascist like it's nothing. Like it applies to everything and everybody we don't like politically. But at the time, there was only a handful of people you could really classify as fascist, and so it was making a stand for democracy and and for the American way of life. For him, so I really like the on the road approach that Woody Guthrie had.
Road again.
I mean, yeah, Willie, Johnny Cash, the Highwaymen, that style is very apparent, and I say apparent like I exhibit that. It's stuff I'd like to
We're
exhibit.
trying. We're trying here.
Outside of Woody Guthrie, I would say Drive By Truckers is an
A
influence.
local band.
Hmm.
Local boys.
Those are our boys.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Athens.
the band, like the band
Yeah.
with Rick Danko and Robert
I'd,
Robertson.
I'd like to get those kind of vibes from the drive-by truckers. Just kind of
Yeah,
just like we're cool. We're like we just do the band. We're actually we're people. We're not like just there's no like from listening to their music. There's no like wall between artist and real person. But when you listen to the Drive-By Truckers, it just sounds like just people you know, your friends, your people you like, people you inspire to be like. Like it's just real time, real people stuff. And you're going back to your working class kind of stuff. A lot of the shit's funny, but because it's exaggerated situations that happen to people.
Mm. Is even with the darker stuff like murder,
Hmm.
it's kind of funny
Yeah,
because it's exaggerated feelings that people have. Yeah,
yeah,
real murder happens, but wouldn't it be funny
yeah. It's
if you cut
also
this
it's
person
like
up into 1,000 pieces and then fed him to the dogs?
there's there's like the duality there. You could talk about how a divorce can break up a family, but then also talk about the time Gigi came to town. You know what I'm saying? It's like they're so like the people band, you know?
They sing about a lot of different musical influences. They sing about other artists a lot, different people in the space, and I'd say that's kind of what we would like to do as well. Is wear our influences on our sleeves, sing about people we want to sing about. As you wear your Black Sabbath shirt, and I wear my Leonard Skinner shirt. That's perfect.
Yeah, that sums it up.
Yeah. I mean, of course, Leonard Skinner would be an influence. For this personal project, I don't think any like rock or heavy metal is an influence. But I would cite the Blasters for me as an influence. Definitely some rockabilly
I
because that's just how I
Yeah,
roll.
yeah. I would cite, I guess, another influence. Well, not so much doom, but like stoner rock from like, um, yeah, sleep a little bit, but like I'm thinking more, like Weed Eater,
Mm.
kind of like when they introduce like folk instruments, but it's still really slow and it's you know, and just vibes like that of like psychedelia, kind of psychedelia doom, essentially. If you want to kind of break it down instead of just calling everything stoner rock or stoner metal.
It's more complex than that, especially
Yeah,
when you add a banjo to it. It suddenly changes the whole vibe.
yeah.
It's
Banjo
amazing.
kind of does that to a
Yeah,
song. You know what I'm
yeah. If
saying?
you add a mandolin or a banjo, all of a sudden it's a different genre of music. Crazy how that works, huh?
Yeah, that kind of vibe of just like slow, just bird, but like you also feel like almost like you're tiptoeing, trying to avoid like through a trailer park in Appalachia, trying not to get noticed. With all these different cabins and everything, almost like Outlast 2. Kind of just like the eeriness, but it's all slow because you have to move really slow. That's what I'm kind of imagine. I think for the most part, at least with the new song, I think it shines with its slower riffs. I mean, like it's fast, but not rock fast or traditional folk fast because you're going ham on that banjo back and forth with you know the hammer and claw. But with this, I really think that it shows its doomness with how slow the riffs are, and I dig slow.
Yeah, you naturally play Doom. Who just naturally plays Doom? Who does that?
It's not even an intention. It's just I let my fingers go, and it's like, oh yeah, that guy likes Geezer Butler.
You know, that's a good assumption for somebody to come to a conclusion to.
Yeah, yeah,
That guy reminds me of Geezer Butler. Yeah, that's a
yeah.
compliment.
That's quite a
I
compliment.
think the greatest compliment I ever gave you was that I think your comedy is kind of like Chris Farley. And like, yeah, you might say that's not true whatsoever. Just like I don't think you're playing as Geezer Butler, but if you can come to a fraction of that, you're doing better than most people ever will.
I want his new book, and he retired. He retired like literally after the episode we were talking about how we talked about meeting Eric, and I was talking about I can't meet Lemmy, I can't meet Phil Lynott, and I don't know when I'm gonna see Geezer because he's not doing really anything. And then now he's officially retired from music.
So that's how it works out. Just like after I got done talking about Blood Meridian, Cormac McCarthy dies.
Yeah,
So, speaking of Southern Casket, you ready to jam out?
yeah, I think it's time to kick out the jams.
So, in conclusion, don't go near the Titanic. It's cursed. And check out our new songs on SoundCloud.
And YouTube.
And yeah, YouTube. Don't neglect YouTube, like us. Love you.
Peace.